Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Ideas That Matter. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. So first and foremost, make sure everyone is put on mute. Secondly, we want to make sure that if your view is not already changed to speaker view, please do that. If you have not done so, I know most of you have, but please sign in to buzzit.ca on either your other device, your mobile phone. It has a very nice mobile capability. This is going to allow you to, one, see the profiles of the students who are going to be pitching today and a little bit about their venture. And it will let the ventures actually get to know the people who are attending, possibly team members and people who might be interested in their idea. So go to buzzit.ca, event code ITM, Ideas That Matter. If you have not already signed in as an attendee, please do so. I would encourage you as we go through the presentation, when Dustin and Maria finish up, I would refresh your screen that you have the Buzzit app on. It will make sure that it captures any new people that have been signing in as we're progressing.
I think we need to do, I have a couple.
Hey guys, just a reminder to put yourselves on mute.
Thank you. So tonight's agenda, there's going to be a presentation done by Ivanti. They're going to be talking to us about the problem pitch. So oftentimes entrepreneurs go straight to idea, they want to go straight to solution. And what we really want to do is back up and really take a deep dive into what that problem is. And this process that Dustin and Maria will take us through will really help us do a deep dive into that. Afterwards, there's going to be 1-minute presentations done by the teams who have signed up through Buzzit to let us know that they're willing to pitch tonight. You're going to be timed. It's going to be a 1-minute pitch. Just you tell us about who you are, what your idea is, and if you're looking for student help, tell us what you're looking for. So are you looking for a computer science student to help you with tech? Are you looking for marketing? Those kind of things will be helpful for the students to know what you are looking for in teammates. And really, when you're talking about your idea, talk about your passion for what you're doing, because that is the utmost importance when presenting a venture. Is we want to see the passion come through that. Couple of housekeeping rules. Once each presenter has presented, we will put them in individual breakout rooms. Students who want to join in with those teams are going to enter into the Zoom chat box that they want to meet with a particular team. So remember their team name, you'll have the app, you'll know what they're called. Use the Zoom chat to let us know what breakout room you want to go to, and we will put you in there. We'll have our facilitators, our mentors, joining rooms sporadically, just popping in and seeing if there's any help that you need. If while you're in your room, you have a question or you want a particular facilitator to come join you, please put that in the Q&A in the Buzzit feed. So use your Q&A for the Buzzit to ask questions. Use the Zoom chat to be put into specific rooms. I'll have this slide backed up after everybody gets done presenting so that you don't have to remember all of this, but these are just kind of general housekeeping things. So I am going to actually turn this over to Dustin. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I will invite Dustin to share his screen and give us a great presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. So let me get this set up here. All right, can you all see a Google slide deck? Hear me all right? Okay, cool. Maria, you're here?
I'm here.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We are excited to be here. So Maria and I are going to take you through a little bit of a process today, trying to think, as Patty said, about how do you evaluate and make sure you're doing your homework on problems before you ever get to kind of solutions and business models when it comes to starting a venture. A little bit of a layout of today and how we're going to go through this. It's a little bit kind of modular because we know there's different people in different stages. So I know at least it looks like 20 of you, looks like through Buzzit, already have ideas. So we're going to have some things for you. But for those of you who are on and don't have any ideas yet, or are like really kind of, I know the area I'm interested in, but I don't know what to do with it, we also have things to help you get started. So if you walked in today and you're like, I'm interested in entrepreneurship, but I have no idea where to start, don't worry. We're going to have at least one first step for you so we can get you moving. And hopefully you can put something together either by next week, or if not, at least in time to hit the first deadline for McCloskey. So the three kind of things we're going to go through, and Maria and I will kind of toggle back and forth between these three things, are we'll talk first about building hunches. So this is going to be particularly for the people who don't really know what you want to work on yet, don't even maybe know if you want to work on something, but are curious. We'll talk you through kind of how to get started. For those of you who already have an idea, this is still an important thing to pay attention to, as will the next stage, because this is really kind of gut check you and challenge you to make sure that you're onto something already with the idea that you're trying to use. Second thing we're going to jump into is actually defining the problem you're solving. So we'll talk a little bit about who your user might be, what they're facing, and the thing that's not working well, plus kind of what is and what is not working about the current solutions that they might be using. This will be particularly important, not just for people who kind of know what they want to work on but don't know how to define it yet, but those of you who do have an idea, we're going to really challenge you to think, can you fill out all of these different Mad Libs we're going to show you for your idea, just to make sure that it's making sense. And then finally, we'll go into actually developing the concept. So we'll show you how to do some cool brainstorming stuff. We'll show you how to like test an idea with just a piece of paper. So you don't have to go and code anything or get really expensive tech help to show people what your idea might be and get some feedback that'll hopefully influence your pitch come next week. So after we cover all that, we're all going to do this all in hopefully like 50 minutes, but after we cover all that, we'll also show you the pitch deck template that you'll have that you can use next week. It's pretty step-by-step. You should be able to just fill in the work that we show you how to do today. And you should have a nice 8-slide deck that you can use for next Thursday. Okay, everybody cool with that? We're good to go. If you have questions as we go, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll make sure to pause and take a moment to address them. Cool. Okay, so first group and first kind of stage we're going to talk about is like actually where we're trying to get to. So if all goes well today, or all goes well obviously over the next week and beyond, you're going to eventually be able to fill in this little Mad Lib that we've created here, which is all about how we're going to kind of define what an opportunity might look like for a business. Obviously, these can be very complicated businesses. You could talk probably for hours about them, but like in most of these cases, you can actually get it down to one sentence, and that's what we're going to try to do. So the goal kind of at the end of all this is to be able to fill in this Mad Lib. So don't worry, we're going to take it kind of step by step. But the general idea is we're going to identify a certain segment or type of person. We're going to identify something they're trying to do. They need a way to do X, Y, or Z. We're going to think about what that actually is. And then we're going to define something that is getting in the way of them being able to do it. And that thing getting in the way is hopefully the thing that we're going to attack and try to solve with our business. Now, obviously, we are talking about starting businesses here. And so businesses need resources to run just like anything else. So we do have to make sure that if we solve that problem for that person, there's a way to pay for it, right? They're going to somehow be an exchange of money that would let our business survive. So we're also going to talk about like, if we do solve it, we don't have to worry about how yet, but if we do solve it, what kind of value do we unlock, and how do we know kind of how much value is there to unlock, which will help us build eventually this big scary thing called a business model. So that's kind of where we're headed towards. Basically at the end of next week, if you can say this one sentence, you will be miles ahead of any entrepreneur in any place. It is a very succinct thing to be able to do. Not easy, but we're going to try to help you get there. Okay, so stage number one, so building hunches. So this is especially important for people who are walking in today and saying like, I don't necessarily know what I want to work on, how I want to work on it, but I am interested in this whole entrepreneurship thing. And there might even be like certain issues I really care about. And I would like to see if I could start a venture in somehow solving one of those issues. So that's going to be kind of stage one, and we call it building hunches. So this is kind of trying to map out like where might be an interesting place to spend time and dig around and think about starting the company.
And for anybody out there who says, I'm not an ideas person, I'm also not an ideas person, this is a place to start for you people who are not ideas people.
Yeah, and for those of you who are ideas people, this is a place to gut check yourself that you're not running too fast with the first thing that pops in your head. That is me. So you have a good balance between Maria and I of like kind of personas here. Okay, so building hunches, we're going to talk about 3 different steps that are going to sound super simple. They're a little bit tougher to pull off, but they should be pretty easy and approachable to start, of how do you even find a place where it might be worth spending some time and looking for an opportunity. So step number 1, and we do have worksheets for all this kind of stuff that'll be included in this deck. We'll send you links to the deck so you can actually use them. You'll have all the notes, so don't worry about all of that. But step number 1 is pretty simple. We call it sandbox, stakeholders, and sources. So what we're going to first start by doing is probably asking yourself the hardest question of all this, which is like, what am I interested in? What do I care about? Where might I like to start a business? And so we call that the sandbox. So that's a really kind of a personal decision. It might be everything from like, hey, I really care about affordable housing, to like, hey, I really care about helping developers build better apps. Like it can kind of be based on what you enjoy, but that'd be the first place we start. It's like defining what is that for you in particular. The second thing we do is once we have that sandbox defined, then we start thinking about like, okay, can we sit down and brainstorm who are all of the type of stakeholders or people involved in that topic area? So for example, if I said affordable housing, I might start thinking, well, there's home buyers, there's real estate agents, there's bankers, there might be code inspectors, there's neighbors, like there's a whole bunch of different people that are kind of in that sandbox and could be considered stakeholders. So we would simply just list out who they are. And it's okay if you don't need names necessarily, you can just kind of start with categories of people. Once we have all the stakeholders listed out, the last part of this is then thinking about, okay, besides people, what are other sources that we could go to that might have information on this? And this is like typically probably what you all think more of like desk research or Google type research, right? So this might be things like research reports, this might be newspapers, this might be books, podcasts, basically anything where you think there might be information that you could look at in terms of the topic you're interested in. Now, real quickly, you might be asking yourself, like, this seems like it has 0 things to do with business. Why are you spending time doing this? I don't understand. And the goal here is like, we want 2 types of information when we think about solving problems with businesses. One is, how do people actually experience these problems? And it's probably not news to you. People are not always rational. It's not always clear how people think. So making sure we go out and actually talk to people about how they experience these problems is really important. And it's also really important to balance that information with other kind of, I would say, more statistical based or information based sources as well, and make sure that we have that information behind us if we're going to start something. So that is literally step number 1, is sitting down, do it digitally, do it on a piece of paper, but start thinking through, what am I interested in, who's involved with that thing I'm interested in, and what are the sources of information I can go to. Okay. Step number 2 is you're going to do 2 things. One is you're going to go to talk to all the people you think are interesting from your stakeholder list. And step number 2 is you're going to read all the things you can on your sources list. We put some tips here in talking to people. This could literally be its own 2-hour workshop. So it's okay if it's tough and we don't have a lot of time to go into it today. But one simple thing that we want to kind of help you understand is when talking to people about these problems and trying to do what they often call validation work in entrepreneurship, so proving that there's a problem there, the place to dig and to mine for great stuff is stories. Okay, so like if you can get people to tell you stories about this topic you're interested in, you will almost always find things they're very frustrated by, right? So you can probably understand this. You probably have all heard each other, your friends, your roommates, people in your dorm, just go on rants about things that they experience on a daily basis. If you can get into conversations that sound like that, you're probably in a pretty good space, because those are kind of define the things that people might want to spend their resources and their money on solving, because it's a really big frustration. So if you can look for stories, that's the goal. And it's really easy to look for stories by simply asking for them. So for example, back to our affordable housing example, if we wanted to learn, let's say from a prospective home buyer, that was our stakeholder, we wanted to learn something. And so we went in and did an interview with them. We might say simply something like, can you tell me about the last time you searched for a new house? right? And so they might say, well, I logged on to Zillow, et cetera, et cetera. And as they start telling you that story, if you keep digging in with the who, what, where, when, why kind of questions, so kind of trying to be like an investigative journalist, you're probably going to come across something that was frustrating for them that they may want to solve. So that's kind of phase number one, is go and talk to a few of the stakeholders, try to get stories from them, and specifically try to look for stories where they might have frustrations. Step number two is then go and do your desk research. So you're probably going to hear some really cool things, some really interesting things from those interviews. Now you can start doing some searches and some looking at your sources to see if you can find additional information on those particular topics. So I might hear someone say, for example, in the potential home buyer stakeholder interview, they might say, yeah, I tried to look for these houses under $80,000 because that's like what it feels like is in my budget. And I just couldn't find any that it seemed like banks were interested in funding a mortgage for. So I might say like, cool, that sounds like a really interesting like set of things to go discover in my sources. I might go and say like, how many houses under $80,000, for example, have a mortgage, or how many banks do mortgages under $80,000? So you can kind of see a toggle back and forth between your stakeholders and your sources of starting to dig in and discover where there might be interesting things. So once you get that kind of stuff, we're going to just throw it in what we call a fact bank. So write it down. It can either, again, be digitally. You can do it on Post-it notes in bite sizes, in kind of little small facts. Put them down and throw them in your fact bank.
And the rule here is it has to be able to fit on a Post-it note if you were writing with Sharpie. No paragraph Post-it notes.
Yeah, so especially watch out if you have automatic resizing on your text if you're doing it digitally, because it's a good way to cheat to make it fit in the box. So try to keep them succinct, just like classic note-taking techniques. Just try to get to the summary of what you're doing. So now we have a fact bank set up, right? So now it's like, okay, we've learned a bunch of things. Hopefully there's some cool things. How do we turn that into a space we may want to explore? This is where we actually come to this magic of building hunches, which is literally as simple as doing a Mad Lib. So now what we're going to look at our fact bank. We might want to sit down and actually do this with some friends or some other people that might be also interested. And we're going to see, can we start connecting some of our facts that we found both from our stakeholder interviews and from our sources with the word but. And what we're looking for here is kind of this golden contradiction. So somewhere where it looks like one thing is happening, or we think one thing should be happening, but in reality it's not. And all this is pointing us to, it's not brain science. All this is pointing us to is like something's broken. Like X, Y, and Z should be happening, but it's obvious that it's not. So for the home buying example, for example, we started a company that found a contradiction that said there are people willing and able that can afford to buy houses under $80,000, but they are currently renting, and there are less than 1% of those houses are under mortgages. So you're sitting there and going like, that doesn't really make sense. There's a bunch of people who could buy these houses, but when you look at the data, like they're almost all being rented out, and you can't find people that have mortgages for these kinds of houses. I don't know what that means in terms of a business yet, but my radar immediately goes up and goes like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it seems like there's a better way to do that. We have people who want houses. There's houses they can afford. Why aren't they being connected? So all of this is what we're trying to do, is just like look for a place where it's time to hunt, and it's time to like go deeper and spend more time. Your goal here though is to create as many as you can. So don't just stop at the first one. Treat it as a brainstorm. Go back to your fact bank and keep building as many hunches as you can, and then go back and review them and say like, which ones am I interested in? Which ones would I like to pursue? Which ones might be worth spending more time on now that I see that there might be something here that's broken? Okay, so again, this is like really valuable if you are interested in a topic but have no idea what you may want to do. It's also interesting though, if you do have an idea, see if you can back up and actually state the hunch of like what's broken out there in a way that fits into our simple Mad Lib. Any direct questions on any of that for right now? I'm sure there will be. We'll have time afterwards, but hopefully you see like within 3 simple steps, the scariest thing you have to do is go talk to people, which some of you will not like doing. That's okay. You can start with 1 or 2 people maybe you trust, but if you have an interest area, you can get started in this kind of entrepreneurial process. You don't need to have this lightning bolt great idea from the get-go. A lot of it is just investigation and exploring, and you can use these 3 kind of steps to get started. Cool. I will pass it then to Maria for if you have a hunch, what do you do next?
All right. So if you have a hunch, the next thing that we're trying to do is get to the level of information where we can frame up a brainstorm for ourselves to brainstorm solutions. But that is not what we're doing yet. So if you are a person who has kind of a rough sense of where you want to be, what you want to look at, but you don't necessarily have a specific idea nailed down yet, this is where you're going to start. So my hunch people, you're going to do your hunch thing, and then you're going to come into this. If you already kind of feel like you have the sense of a hunch, you're going to start right here. Dustin, can you go to the next slide for me? Cool. So we are, as you're starting to notice, Dustin and I really like Mad Libs. So this part of the process is all about filling in kind of this Mad Lib that Dustin gave you the overview of before. So the goal here is really to first figure out who are we solving a problem for? What is the thing that they need a way to do? But then we want to figure out like what's something that's getting in the way? And then how would we measure that we're solving that problem, and how much is it worth to solve it? So easy, right? Okay, cool. Let's move on to brainstorming. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so how are we actually going to do the work of filling in these boxes? Next slide. So let's start with the first two. So for the need statement, you're going to take your hunch and you're going to look at that, and you're just going to try to think of who is the specific type of person in this hunch that it feels like there's a need that is going unmet. So you may want to even think of, Dustin, the next slide, you even might want to think of like a few different versions of this. So you could brainstorm like for a given hunch, maybe there's 3 different types of people in that hunch, list them all out, and then you're going to choose the one that you're most excited about or that feels like they have the most pressing and urgent need. So then for each of those type of people, you're going to make kind of another statement about what do they need a way to do. And we want to be as specific as possible here. So if you are starting out and you have a hunch similar to the one that Dustin mentioned, and you end up with something that's kind of like people need a way to buy a house, right? That is true. And that definitely falls from the hunch that he had, but it's not specific enough, not nearly specific enough. So what we would do there is then say, okay, people. When he says people, what is he talking about? He's probably talking about people who are making a certain income range, right? Probably people in a certain stage of their life where they're looking to own a home. What are all the different characteristics of that type of person that we can start narrowing in? And then the same thing that they need a way to do. Yes, they need a way to buy a house, but what more specifically, they need a way to finance a house, right? For a house in a certain price range. So again, just trying to get as specific as we can. And for those of you who we end up in breakout rooms with in the next hour, I promise that Dustin and I are going to ask you to be more specific, like 3 different times. But it's one of the most important parts of this is like you can't develop a solution that people are going to love unless you know very clearly who the person is and what specific problem you're trying to solve for them. One other like thing to watch out for, people buy things, companies don't, right? So even if you think the type of person or the type of user is like schools or businesses, that like, legal entity is not literally making a purchasing decision. It's some person inside of that organization. So instead of saying schools, you would want to say, the principal of an elementary school or the IT manager at a business. So always make sure your type of person is actually a type of person. Okay, cool. Next slide. All right, so what we're going to do next is now imagine that we're that type of person and we're trying to figure out what are all the ways that are currently available to them that they can try to meet that need that you identified. And we're going to try to list those all out. So we're going to list things like, are there existing companies that are helping them meet that need? Is there a nonprofit or a policy solution that's helping them meet that need? Is there kind of like a do-it-yourself option? So something they're kind of like hacking together to try to meet that need. Or the famously ignored do nothing current solution, which is almost always one of the biggest ones. So we're just going to start by listing those things out, and try not to fall into the trap of only thinking of like technology companies as current solutions. Often cases like a current solution would be something like, asking my friend for advice, or you know, like walking to someplace to see what other people are doing. Those are all kind of valid. There's like the famous Excel spreadsheet current solution. Yeah, so you're just gonna imagine you're that type of person. What are all the things that they're doing right now to try to meet that need, and list them out. The next question we wanna ask is like, still putting yourself in the shoes of that type of person, what is working about that solution for them? So what do they really like about it? What is actually doing a good job of helping them meet that need? List those guys out. And then we're gonna take the other side and say, okay, what actually still isn't working about that solution? What are they frustrated by? If you ask them like, hey, how's it going with using XYZ solution? What are they gonna tell you doesn't work about it or is getting in the way of them kind of meeting that need? And then the last thing we're gonna do is switch perspectives. And now we're gonna imagine we are whoever it is that's providing that solution, and ask ourselves, why haven't they fixed what sucks about this? So really quickly using the example that Dustin was talking about before, for somebody trying to purchase a home in the kind of sub $80,000 range, one of the current solutions is to do something called a land contract. And it works for some people, but in other cases it doesn't work. Another solution is actually going to the bank to try to get a mortgage, right? And so you would kind of go through that and say, if I'm the person who's going to bank to ask for this loan, what works about that for me? What doesn't work? And then you would switch gears and say, okay, now if I'm the loan officer at that bank and I denied that loan, which is what's not working about it for the person seeking the loan, right? You're going to ask the banker, like, why, like that obviously sucks for this person who's trying to get the loan. Why haven't you figured out a way to finance these homes kind of in the smaller dollar range? And you might get to an answer, which in one case that we've worked on is there's like a regulation that caps what you can charge in fees as a percentage of the home value. So the bank literally loses money if they try to do mortgages in this range. So it's not just a matter of like waving your finger at the bank, right? There's like a real structural barrier for why that's not happening more. So that's the kind of thing we're going to try to get to on that. Why hasn't the pain point been addressed? So that takes us through to get to an insight. Next slide, Dustin. Cool. And so now we have just one more piece of the puzzle to figure out, which is the impact metric and the value. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to take another look at that type of person and what they need a way to do. And we're just going to say, like, what's something that we can measure that we would, if we measured that thing, we would know we were meeting this need for that type of person. So you might be able to think of 2 or 3 different metrics for the type of person and what they need a way to do that you have listed. And then you're going to think about how much value is being unlocked if I am able to solve that. So this is literally a dollar amount that we're trying to get to in the value unlocked. And so some questions to ask as you're thinking about what value is being unlocked. One thing you can ask is, like, how much money are you saving somebody if you move that metric? Another question is, like, how much do they stand to gain by you moving that metric? And then you're also going to want to think through, like, if somebody was paying for that outcome to happen, how would they think about which budget that would come out of? If it's a business, it could be like literally a budget within the business. Or if it's an individual, you think about it kind of in the way that they allocate buckets of money, even if they don't have kind of a literal budget. Cool. So with that, we have completed our problem circle. So we should be able to, next slide, Dustin, fill in this sentence. So you should notice that these Mad Libs are just drawing directly what we pulled from that opportunity circle there. And so you should be able to get to kind of a nice succinct sentence like this that's framing up a brainstorm pretty well. And that is the end of defining the problem. So I will pause here. Who has questions?
So if you guys have questions, you can type them in the chat. Oh, perfect. There's one. How can we formulate the right questions to ask? Any tips? Is there even such a thing as a right question?
So I would say number one if you are trying to formulate a question, it means you're talking to a person, which means you are 90% of the way there. That is the most important thing you can do in each stage of this process, is get out and talk to people. So that's the first thing you're doing right. Like, there's no right, wrong questions. Like Dustin was saying before, getting people to tell stories is often the best way to get good information. So he gave you some examples of how to do that when you're kind of in the hunch phase. Dustin, will you go back to the shortcomings, barriers to change slide? Yeah, so the bulk of like when we're going out to talk to people in this stage is trying to learn what's not working about the current solutions. So here I might have a list of current solutions, and let's say this one was about, finding equipment to tailgate before a football game. So if one of the solutions was going to Walmart on the day of the game, for example, I'm gonna go try to find someone who I know has tailgated at a football game before, and I'm gonna say, instead of saying what sucks about buying things at Walmart to tailgate, instead of that, I'm gonna say, like, hey, when's the last time you hosted a tailgate? And then I'm gonna say, like, oh, interesting. Okay, so like, what was your setup like? Oh, you had a cooler. Cool. Like, where'd you get the cooler? How did that go for you? And then try to get them to tell the story of the last time they did it. And as they're telling the story, I'm listening for, like, what are the positive things that they're saying that makes it seem like whatever solution they're talking about worked? And then what are the things that I'm sensing like negative emotions? Like, as they're telling that story, what can I kind of infer isn't working well about that solution? So the short answer is, like, always you're trying to get to a story.
Yeah, the only thing I would add there is two things. So one is for the people who are still kind of on the exploratory phase, so you don't even know where you're going yet, which it can feel like overwhelming, because I'm sure most of you love to feel like you're going into things very prepared. And so you want to list out all the questions. You want to be able to move from one question to the next with a clear answer and knowing when to move on. And the fact is like, these aren't surveys. These aren't like, I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to get an answer, and I'm going to move on to the next question. These are conversations. Like, you're trying to get people to chat with you about like what frustrates them. So one other set of things to look out for, to know that you might have to steer the conversation in different ways, is people will often try to give you an opinion instead of a story. So you could say like, oh, what is no good about like tailgating before a football game? What doesn't work about that? And you'll start to hear clues. They might say, well, usually, or generally, or always, or never. And whatever follows those phrases are typically like opinions that might not actually exist in the real world. It might actually be their exact experience. It's just what they're thinking or what they want to kind of come off as sharing with you. So if you start to hear people say, well, generally I have a really good experience tailgating, the first thing you want to do is respond. It's like, oh, can you give me an example of that? Like, when was the last time you had a really great experience tailgating? Like, where were you? Who was with you? What were you doing? What did you have with you? The more specifics you can get, the better off you're going to be. So if you hear people talking in generalities, try to steer them towards a specific story, and then ask your classic, what is it, five W's and how? Those questions are magic, especially obviously why. Why is like the golden one, because that'll tell you kind of how people are making decisions.
Awesome.
The second thing,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
there's
sorry.
There's a hand raised here. Yeah.
Okay, just real quick. The second set of people I want to talk to is those of you that already have ideas, and you're probably like, yeah, I'll go out, I'll talk to people. I already know what they think. They're going to tell me that this is a problem because I've been working on this for a long time. That's great. I'm glad. And I believe you. But the first thing you're probably going to try to do is you're going to probably try to be a lawyer, and you're going to try to lead the witness. So you're probably going to ask them questions that you already kind of know the answer you want to get. So you might say something like, hey, isn't it just terrible? Doesn't it really suck when you go to Walmart and they have nothing left? Like, even if that person's never had that experience, they're probably going to say like, yeah, definitely. That doesn't sound great at all. And what happens is, like, you've just validated your opinion. You haven't really validated what their experience has been. So if you already have an idea and you're going out and doing this work and trying to talk to people, be very careful not to lead the witness in your questions with what you already think. Try to keep them super open-ended, and try to see, without you telling them anything about what you think, are they going to bring up the problem that you think they have? If you can get that means you're really onto something. Sorry, Annalisa, go ahead.
No worries. Sorry for interrupting there. I think Lookman, you had a question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, when you're dealing with something, even a specific project within an industry like renewable energy, when trying to specify the types of people you're going to be dealing with or the types of people you're helping, it's still very broad. So how do you suggest specifying that?
Yeah, great question. So at the early parts, you might not have a good answer. So I think that's the other thing to remember about all this is like, it is iterative and you're not going to be right the first time and you're not going to be right probably for a really long time. So what I would do is I would try to get started. So if when I think, okay, like I'm really interested in renewable energy and I might think like, who else is interested in that? I might have a few different stakeholders, but they still feel really broad. I would say like, just try to find one version that fits into one of those stakeholders and start talking to them. Because each conversation will probably help you learn more about how you get more specific. So if you're feeling stuck and you're like, I don't know how to make this more narrow, I don't know enough, that's fine, don't worry about it. Get conversations started as soon as you can, because once you get conversations started, you're always going to get a little bit narrower. That being said, like really quick tactic or tip is at the end of every conversation you have, ask that person, do you know anyone else? Maybe do you know 3 other people I could talk to about this? That might be interesting to talk to. That also will start to help you hone the types of people and get a little bit narrower.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else before we move on to the part everybody loves, the generating actual ideas? Okay, awesome.
I do see a question in here from Shannon. If I choose to go nonprofit with an idea, would you still create a monetary value for what is it costing you? Dustin and I love this question.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You still need money to do things, even if it's a nonprofit.
Yeah. So just remember, really simple thing to keep in mind is nonprofits just mean that what you do with what's left over at the end of the day stays in the organization. It does not mean you don't need money. So I would really think hard about like what the impact you're trying to make is. Now, that being said, often with nonprofits, something you might be saying is like the person I'm directly serving, like the user that has a need, maybe they're not the payer, right? So you might have to go one step further and say like, okay, who might be the person that I would unlock value for? Who might be willing to pay for it? That might be a donor. It might be a foundation. It might be some other entity, but you're still going to have to figure out what kind of value you're unlocking and who might pay for it. Because at the end of the day, you're going to need to pay yourself. You're going to need to pay your staff. You're going to need to pay for all the things that you do in that nonprofit. So, it's in an organizationally, it's just like running a business. Even believe it or not, your host here, like Patty and Annalisa, they have to think about like, where do they get dollars for to run their programs? Like they have a customer, you can think about it that way. Every organization that's doing these kinds of work, they have to think about how does money come into the organization and how does it leave? So even nonprofits have to think about these tough questions. Good question. Anything else before we move on to the fun brainstorm part?
We've got one more. Is it reliable to speak to people in general without an accurate survey methodology?
I bet that's a scientist or
there.
an engineer.
Go ahead, Maria.
Yes, and this like it hurts me a little bit as an engineer, reformed engineer. The goal at this phase is not to get statistically significant results. We are never going to be able to like do a randomized control trial when we're still trying to figure out what the problem is. So like the meat of this stage of the process is all about going really deep and getting human stories and emotions, the kind of information that would be impossible to collect in a survey. So what we're doing here is like, you're probably talking to like between 10 and 100 people. It obviously varies a lot. But in general, like between 10 and 100 people. And we're not going to be like tabulating very carefully, like, oh, they said love 5 times. And 72% of people I talked to said love, in at least 3 different segments. That's not the information we're going for at all. We're trying to figure out like what deeply troubles and pains these people and what are they motivated to do. And that's going to allow us to hopefully define a problem and then design a solution that they're going to want to use and hopefully pay for. So you are not trying to get statistically significant results from a survey or a randomized control trial. That is just not the work at this stage.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like trend spotting. Like you're trying to see like generally where are things going. Much later, you can talk about starting to get better sample sizes and very specific sample sizes and things like that when you're testing maybe specific product features or something like that. But at this stage, we're just trying to like figure out where are we going to point the ship of our efforts. Is it like south or is it north? Much less than like what's the actual very specific way we're going. Another really good question. Cool. Okay, let's move on. So now that we have this like little Mad Lib here, this like one sentence description of the problem that we're interested in, we can actually flip it into a question. So that's kind of what's happening on this slide, where now we're saying, if we know this is the need and we know what the barrier is, the kind of implied question now is like, how do we overcome that barrier to help this person meet that need? And it has a little bit of a caveat though to it. It has a caveat of the work we've done around the value. So we are going to talk about, when we talk about business model brainstorming, we are going to say, but like, we know that if we can do X, Y, or Z, we unlock a certain amount of value, and that might be how we think about where our business model can come into play. So as we start to ask ourselves that question, we want to get into this kind of developing a concept and actually thinking about ideas. It might come as a surprise. Some of you might be exposed to this already. Some of you might not, but coming up with ideas, like Maria said, you actually don't need to be a quote unquote ideas person to do this. There's actually kind of structured ways to do things like brainstorming, and it doesn't involve just like sitting on a couch or riding on a train and hoping like an idea smacks you outside the head. We can actually like sit down and try to do it. And the reason we can try to do it is because we have a really good question now, right? We have a specific question we're trying to answer, which is how can we overcome this barrier to help this type of person achieve this thing? So the way that Maria and I do this is we actually very much structure our time. What might be surprising to you is, as you can probably see with all the work that we've asked you to do up to date to this point in time, is it's probably going to take you a while. Like, you have to go read a bunch of things. You have to go talk to a bunch of people. You probably have to go back and talk to a bunch of people. Like, this could be weeks, if not months of work. We are going to spend 15 minutes on the idea. That's it for right now. That's all the time we're going to spend, because first thing we know about the idea is it's probably going to change. As soon as people get in touch with it, we're going to figure out all the ways it's wrong, and so we're going to change it anyway. And two, you can actually come up with a lot of ideas in 15 minutes if you sit down and structure your time. So what we would actually do is 3 5-minute brainstorming sessions. So we would set this question in front of us, the question being, how might we overcome this barrier to help this person do this thing, given what we know about the value that can be unlocked? And what we're going to try to brainstorm is solutions and business model pairs. So when you come out of this stage, you should be able to say, like, here's the solution that I have, and here's how I make money based on delivering that solution. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. We do a few tips for you. One is, a solution is something specific. So for example, if we go back to our housing example and we're like, we want to help these buyers access financing for houses under $80,000, given the fact that if we know that we do that, we can save them money from what they would have paid in rent, let's say. I'm not going to say solution is we could help them with a financing program. Like, that is way too broad. It's not an actual solution, and it doesn't respect all of the work you've already done in putting a ton of time in defining the problem well. So what we'd want to do is say something specific, like, we could create a crowdfunding platform to help people crowdfund mortgages for this type of person. And if we get it, we get a success fee from the person because we know we're saving them money, right? That would be like a much more specific version of the problem. The other things about doing this brainstorm is we have a few rules for it. The number 1 rule, which actually is the number 4th one listed here, but I'm going to say it first because it's the most important, is never brainstorm alone, actually. Don't do this by yourself. Like, get other people, get friends, get other people that are going to bring new perspectives and new ideas in, because that's going to create a lot of cool things that you can then combine together into interesting ideas. A few other things is, like, actually while you're brainstorming, defer judgment and discussion. Like, put your ideas out there and then have a rule that you don't get to say anything after you share it. Everybody's instinct is going to be Mr. Pessimist. And as soon as someone says an idea, be like, Dustin, your crowdfunding idea is stupid. It's never going to work. They have to raise like $80,000. How are you going to get people to get on there? What about regulation? That's not going to, like, and what it'll do is that'll kill everything that could be possible. We just don't know it yet. So instead, Maria might answer, awesome, here's my idea. So we're just going to get as many ideas out as we can and save discussion and judgment for later. Second or third rule, I guess, is encourage crazy ideas. It sounds funny, it sounds a little bit goofy, but the crazier they are, sometimes the better they are. And it opens up your mind about thinking about what might be possible. And then fourthly is like always try to anchor to the prompt. So if you do the first three right and you're deferring judgment and you're getting crazy ideas, you might find the group of people start wandering into not crazy idea land, but this has nothing to do with what we're talking about land. So you might have someone that needs to yank you back in and say, hey, we're still talking about funding houses under $80,000 for these kinds of people. So literally the way that we would set it up and do it is we'd say, okay, 5 minutes, everybody sit down with a Post-it note and a marker and silently for 5 minutes, crank out as many ideas and business models as you can. Then we would go around and share all those. No discussion, just share them. Then on the second one, we would go, okay, second round of brainstorming, another 5 minutes, try to combine any of the ideas you've heard from other people into a new idea. 5 minutes, go, write them down silently and then share them out. And then on the third, we'd say, go ham, do whatever you want, come up with crazy ideas, and take another 5 minutes and come up with as many ideas as you can, and then share them out. If you do this, and especially if you do this with like 3, 4, 5 people, in 15 minutes, you literally might come up with 100 ideas of how to solve this one single problem that you've defined well. And then that's when we can like start to have some choice about what is interesting, what might be non-obvious, and things that we can take forward, knowing that it's like rooted in all the work you did about describing the problem in the first place. Okay, so once we do that fun 15 minutes of brainstorming, now it's the hardest point, which is like, let's say we have 100 ideas out there, we need to pick one. So we're gonna pick one. There's a lot of different ways to think about doing this. You can pick the one that excites you the most. You can pick the one that you think you could build. There's a lot of different criteria you can use. You'll probably usually know the one that you want to spend time on. So I would just use the one that you're most excited about that you think kind of fits your skill set. So we pick one, and then we're going to do something really, really, really silly, simple. We're going to make a comic book out of that idea. And the goal of doing this is basically to understand kind of what are the big questions we have about how the thing would actually work. So I would literally sit down with a blank sheet of paper, divide it into 6 boxes, like a little comic strip. And in those 6 boxes, follow this storyboard template that we have on the screen. So in box number 1, we're going to draw the problem. So draw the person that you talked about in your problem statement actually experiencing the problem. The number 1 rule here is draw. It is not write, it is draw. And what you'll find out is when you draw, you'll probably think of more questions because you'll actually envisioning it happening in real life. And that is a really useful thing to go through. So number 1 is problem. What's going on? Who's experiencing the problem? That should be pretty easy because you already defined it. The second question you need to answer is in pane number 2 on the storyboard is how does the person hear about your new solution? Okay, so if you are a new startup, if you are a new company, nobody knows you exist yet. So they're not just going to come to your website and say like, oh, magic, like I just knew to go to buyhousesunder$80,000.com. Like, of course I thought about doing that. So you have to think about like, how are they actually going to even hear about your solution in the first place before we even get to how it works? So you might think a little bit about like, how might you market? How might you advertise? How might they actually hear? The reason we make you draw this is because if you don't draw this, I 100% know the top 3 answers you would write in this box. The number 1 is going to be social media. The number 2 thing you're going to write down is website. And the number 3 thing you're going to write down is word of mouth. And all of those are great, but they absolutely mean nothing. I don't know what it means to find something on social media. I don't know what it means for something to spread word of mouth. You have to actually describe how does it actually happen. Are you going to put ads on Instagram? Are you going to put ads on Facebook? Are you going to create a referral program so people have to tell their friends because they want to save money? Are you going to advertise on TV or the radio? Actually asking your question how and drawing it is going to make sure you don't get away with answers like social media or word of mouth. Okay, so that's pane number 2. Pane number 3, 4, and 5 is pretty simple, is break down your solution into 3 steps. So number 1 might be fill out an application for our housing form online. Number 2, visit 10 houses with our real estate agent. Number 3, sign and get your home approved and move in. So we want to make it really simple, only 3 steps, try to cover the big important points in those 3 steps. Again, focusing on drawing. And then finally, in the last, just like a comic book, you want to put the resolution. So this is where we should be like kind of trying to draw back in, like what is the metric people care about at the end of the day? What happens when we solve this problem for them? What are they going to pay attention to? So this kind of like 6-pane storyboard is really to get you to think through the kind of who, what, when, where, why, how again, but specifically for your solution and hopefully be able to tell that story in a really clean way. Okay, so now we have our storyboard. The next thing we need to do is, surprise, surprise, we need to go talk to more people and actually see, is this idea any good or not? The thing you're going to be tempted to do is you're going to be super pumped about your idea. You're like, I know exactly how this thing should work. I just came up with the idea. I obviously know how it should work. So I'm going to start building it, or I'm going to start coding, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And that is an interesting approach. But what that approach happens is like, it's probably built on a ton of assumptions that we made from our problem definition through what we think the solution could be. And a bunch of it's probably wrong. And so if we spend too much time and too much money into the solution that we just came up with in 15 minutes, we're probably going to get it wrong, and we're probably going to waste a bunch of time and money. So what we instead want to do is like, how do we get the quickest version of what we're talking about out and get feedback quickly so we can figure out how we might want to iterate it. So the number one rule here when we think about prototyping is free, fast, and now. And almost entirely the best way to do that is actually not build anything, but basically create what we call a one-page ad or one-page flyer. So imagine you're walking down the street, someone adds you a one-page flyer for your service. And what we're going to do is we're going to do that in 4 sections on this one-page ad. You could literally do this by hand. Again, you could do it digitally, however you want to do it. That top box is going to be a description of the problem and your value proposition. And this is like, you want to aim this at your type of user. So I might say like, hey, it's really frustrating to be renting and not owning, especially when the houses you are trying to buy can't get a mortgage, right? So now I'm going to pique their interest, be like, hey, I've been through that. That kind of sucks. Like, I resonate with that problem. Then we might say value proposition. We find a way, or we can help you finance homes for under $80,000 and help you start saving money instead of only renting. It's like, oh, cool. Like, that actually really appeals to me because that's the problem I have, and that's the kind of value proposition I'm looking for. The second section of the one pager is just going to say how it works in 3 steps. So you can take this directly from your comic book. So 1, 2, 3. And then the final 2 sections are going to be, here's the price, here's how much it costs. We're just going to choose something based on what we've learned about the value that we're unlocking. And then here's a call to action. So some sort of action you want them to take. That might be go to our website, give us your email, call this number, something to show that like if they were interested in what we were doing, they have something to do that can show us that they're interested. So you're not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is probably 10, 20, 30 minutes of work. Create this one-page ad and then go take it back out to the people you think might be interested in your service and get feedback. So that's the final step we have here, which is getting feedback on your one-pager and actually iterating it. So we're going to take this out. We're going to show it to people. And the number one rule with getting this kind of feedback is you're not trying to sell, you're trying to learn. And so if you're trying to learn, the number one thing you can do is not be talking. So literally what you want to do is hand this type of person your one-pager and say, I have only 4 questions for you. When you look at this one-pager, what works about it for you, what doesn't work about it, what questions come to mind, and what ideas come to mind. And then you're going to furiously take notes as they start answering those questions after looking at your one-pager. Some 2 little tips about as they start to give you feedback.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Can you please repeat those questions?
Yep. They're the ones right here on the slide right under step 5 that you're going to have. So number 1 is what works. Number 2, what doesn't work. Number 3, what questions do you have? And number 4, what ideas do you have? So as soon as we ask those questions, they're going to hopefully start talking, hopefully talking very profusely about those answers. And inevitably, someone's going to say something like, okay, like this is interesting about this house buying process. Can I search for these houses online? And your initial reaction will be to give them the answer that you think, which is like, yes, of course, obviously, this whole thing's going to be online. That's the point. That's the idea. I had that down, kind of when we did our brainstorming. But what we're actually trying to do is, since we're trying to learn and not sell, we're always going to answer those kinds of questions with a question. So they're going to say, can I search for houses online? And I'm going to respond by saying, would it be important to you to be able to search for houses online? And then you're going to actually hear what their thoughts are on that, which is much richer, deeper information. And also make sure that like you don't get a positive, negative kind of answer when you could have gotten a better one. So if you just said yes, they might go like, and assume that that's how it's going to work, when in reality, they would actually like to tour the houses in person. But you didn't get to learn that because you kind of gave them the answer you thought was right instead of turning it back to them. So that's number 1. Always answer a question with a question. You probably can drive your siblings and parents crazy by using this in other parts of life sometimes, but it's a really cool thing. It's a really cool trick that hopefully will get you a lot more feedback and valuable feedback. And then the third point is just try to ask always why. So if someone says like, yeah, no, that really doesn't make sense to me, I don't like that, make sure you're following up with like, could you tell me more about that? Like, why doesn't that make sense to you? The goal being to get as much rich information as you can. The only other thing I want to say about this is you're probably going to be pretty pumped about everything that goes in the what works category, because it's going to feel like validation of what you did. After a few tries at this, I would really encourage you to get excited about the what didn't work box. Because the what didn't work about it box is where every person that you get to tell you something that goes in that box is saving you time and money, because it's things that you thought were true that turns out to be not true. So that is where the gold of this feedback form is when you can get people to tell you about what's not working about your solution, because then you can go back and iterate pretty quickly. And so what we would do, Maria and I would literally make a one-pager, show a bunch of people, get feedback. Then we would go back and say like, okay, how do we iterate now our idea based on the feedback we got? And we would update it and create a new one-pager. And then we would go out, talk to 10 to 20 more people, get their feedback, and keep doing that until you get consistent feedback. They're like, oh yeah, hey, what you have is really interesting. Like, when is it ready? Like, when can I buy it? Where can I put my email? Where can I put my phone number? Because I'd really like to know when this thing launches. Okay, so that was kind of the last step. Obviously that is not like, okay, great, now you've had your 50-minute session at the Holiday Inn on how to create a good business, like, see you later. This is obviously only the beginning of like what it takes down to build a business. But this is like, again, hopefully some actionable steps of like, even if you have nothing today, things you can do to start getting into the groove of what a good idea might be. And hopefully you don't have to spend any money and not a whole lot of time at the beginning to be able to do that. We are almost exactly on time. Questions? Who has questions about this part or any of the parts that we've talked to about thus far?
I have a question.
Please.
So I'm Lilia. Thank you, Dustin. So for the pitch on the September 24th, like, you would expect us to have done all this work that like you talked about, or are these suggestions that we can show you that we've pursued some of them perhaps?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'm going to show you, hopefully on my screen, can you see my screen, a different pitch deck here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I will walk you through really quickly. This is a template we'll share so you don't have to worry about what slides go on, and we'll give you a lot of information. The short answer to your question is that, like, if you can do all of this work in a week, that would
We'll
be,
hire you.
Yeah, it's impossible because it is very nonlinear, as you can see, and like takes a lot of iteration. I think what we're looking for is like, here's some things to start doing, or to do a first version of, even if it's really rough. And what we would hope to see next week in the pitch is not like, I have a business, awesome, like I'm done, but more like, hey, I started doing your process and here's all the things I've learned and here's where I'm going next. Because at the end of the day, like, that is what the entrepreneurship process is about. Is it's not about, I start one day and in a week I can tell you that I'll be done. It's more about like, how fast can you learn and how can you get into a cycle of kind of always having a next step of the next thing you want to learn about. So the answer is, if you could finish all of this, that would just be insane, because it actually doesn't even make sense. So what we'd like to see you do is like, did you get out there and start? Like, did you start looking for hunches? Did you start interviewing people? Did you maybe even get a one-pager into someone's hands and get feedback on? But because some of you are coming in at different points in time, it doesn't make sense that all of your pitch decks will look the same. When we think about judging the pitch decks, we're going to look much more at like, what did you go do? What did you learn? What are the next steps you're trying to take? That is like much more of how we think about kind of grading entrepreneurs, rather than who has the snazziest idea or the best pitch deck.
Right. And hopefully in the process of trying to put together this pitch deck, you'll realize all the things that you don't know. And that's what's going to be like, you're going to create a list of work for yourself after the pitch of, how am I going to go use some of these other things we've gone and learned about today to go learn more and continue learning. So the pitch in a week is not the end. It should be like a thing that's helping you understand what it is you need to then go out and learn to keep making progress.
Cool. So real quick, yeah, no problem. Good question. Real quickly, we will show you the slides. None of it should sound crazy because basically we're just saying like all the hard work you just did, we just want to put it in presentation format now. So slide number 1, the most fun slide, come up with your great company name and list your team members. That's pretty self-explanatory. Slide number 2 is actually really interesting. So this slide, what we want to see is basically tell us the story of your user experiencing the problem. So this is not like some people really struggle getting mortgages. I want to hear like a story like Marie is a home care nurse who lives in a place like South Bend, has been renting her house for 10 years, has been trying to find a house she can afford, but every time she goes to a bank with one she can't afford, she gets turned down from a mortgage. She's super frustrated. She spends $1,200 in rent per month, and she knows if she could buy a house, she could save at least $300 per month and be able to own it, and it really, really frustrates her. That's the kind of thing we want here, which hopefully shows us that you went out and talked to real people and really understood some of those stories that they gave you about what's frustrating them. So that's slide number 1. If you'll notice in each of these slides, we'll tell you like on the slide what to actually put on the slide. And then the description is down in the notes of like what we're looking for. So this best way to do this slide is just have a photo that kind of represents your user or the type of problem you're working on. This makes sure that people are explaining or are paying attention to what you're talking about and not necessarily what's on the slide. The second slide will be like, okay, so here's Marie. She's in this position where she's trying to buy this house. What is she doing today? What are the options to solve this problem that are available to her? So you'll notice this goes back to our current solutions analysis that we did before. So you might list out 1 to 3 of those solutions. Here's the first thing she tried. Here's why it doesn't work for her. Here's the second thing she tries. Doesn't work for her, and here's why. Here's the third thing, and this is why it doesn't work. So we're kind of setting up saying like Marie really needs something great, and we're going to tell you what it's going to be. So now we're going to say, here's the opportunity we see. People like Marie, so home care nurses making under $40,000 a year in Midwest cities, need a way to buy houses they can afford under $80,000, but know that banks can't make those mortgages because of a regulation they have to follow. So we're going to kind of like simply state, here's the thing that we think we can solve. And we're going to ask you to fill in along with that is give us a little bit of evidence. So some of that evidence is going to come from your interview. So give us a quote that kind of explains or illustrates that need that you just showed. And then maybe you use some information from the sources that backs it up from a data perspective. So you might say, we know that less than 1% of houses in cities like South Bend under $80,000 are under mortgages. So we know this is a huge need. So this is a little bit about stating the opportunity and a little bit of the hard work and the evidence that you gathered in order to back that opportunity up. Now that we've set the whole thing up, then we're going to say, but don't worry, homesunder80K.com, we have a solution for you. We have an alternative financing solution for homes under $80,000, and here's how it works. 1, 2, 3, just like our comic strip. So that should be pretty easy to fill in, keeping it simple. You're going to tell us how you make money. So this is the solution we provide. Here's how we make money. So basically, here's the price we charge, and here's what we deliver for that price. Don't forget this part. Don't forget the unit. A lot of people will put, here's what we charge, but make sure you tell us for what. Like, what does the person get in exchange for that price?
And hopefully this is less than whatever the value you're unlocking is with that metric that you
So if you're going to, for example, if you're going to save me $5,000, I'm probably not going to pay you $5,000, but I might pay you some portion of $5,000. So just make sure the price kind of makes sense given what you've said the value you unlock is. And then the next to last slide, the most important slide, tell us how many people you've talked to and what you've learned. So back to your question earlier about like how far along in the process will we have made. Some of you will be like, I've only talked to 2 people. That's what I could get done in a week. And some of you might say like, hey, I've been working on this for a while and now I've talked to like 50 people. But what's important is like telling us how many people you talked to, and most importantly, like what have you learned? So that might be what have you learned about the problem? That might be what have you learned about your solution and business model? But tell us the things that you've learned, kind of where it's pointing you in terms of the solution that you provided. And then finally, just like our comic book, tell us the resolution. So if we can build this company and we can do this thing, this is what our customers can achieve, and this is kind of why things are better off if we exist. So pretty simple, only 8 slides. One of them is a title slide. So it's
Great. And if I was you, I would not worry. I would not touch this deck until like the day before you're pitching. I would spend all of your time in like doing the work that we talked about until now. And if you do a good job doing that work, it should be pretty simple to translate that into a deck.
Thanks, guys. We've got a couple questions. For the story, can it be an imaginary person, or should it involve like statistics of a population? And then we have another question, just how long, so we've got the 8 slides here for the pitch deck. Like how long should the students spend kind of talking about this as they're presenting the pitch?
Yeah. So on the story side of things, so if it's a real story, that's usually best. And if that's okay, if whoever told you that story is okay with you sharing it. But you can use kind of you can create like a persona story if that's necessary, where you're kind of saying like, here's generally kind of what's happening. And it's kind of a combination of a bunch of different stories I've heard that illustrates the point. What I would stay away from here is coming up and saying like, hey, we are homesunder80k.com. Let me tell you a story. 30,000 people in America can't buy homes under $80,000.
That's not a story.
That's not a story. That's a statistic, right? So I would start with trying to like make it human. Like all businesses are human. Like Maria said, like every business is an interaction between humans. Like tell us what is going on in the world, who's experiencing it, what's associated with, what are they trying to achieve? Try to make it a story. Obviously, in the future, when you develop more of this idea, and you'll see this in McCloskey, you're going to have to start having statistics around, okay, if Marie is this at-home care nurse, I'm going to start asking questions at some point of like, how many Maries are in the world, right? Because if there's only one, this is going to be a very tough business to build. But for right now, we're not worried about too much about that. I would really focus here on telling a story and explaining what's the frustration and the pain point that person feels. Good question.
All right, guys, if I can take over this right now so we can keep on schedule. You can stop sharing your screen, Dustin.
Yep. There you go.
Perfect. And so I do see there's a couple other questions, and we will address that after we get on with this. So we want to move through so we can actually get everybody up to pitch. So what's going to happen next? So we're going to do 1-minute presentations by the teams who have actually signed up and have profiles made in Buzzit. We will call on you. So I'll call you by your team name, unmute yourself. You have 1 minute. I will be timing you. When the timer goes off, I will move on and call the next person. Those watching and attending, use your Buzzit profiles to be able to look at these ideas. You'll see contact names, additional information. Be thinking about what teams you might be interested in joining. Also, I'm going to have Annalisa put in the chat right now a Google form for you to select as you're listening to these pitches, teams that you might want to be put into their breakout rooms with. So this hopefully will move this along a little bit faster. Once all the presentations are done, we will put all of the presenters in their rooms, and then Annalisa will start one by one assigning people who want to be in breakout rooms with the teams that they have chosen. The facilitators and the mentors that are a part of this, just hang tight, and as questions are being asked and as students are or if you have an interest in joining a room, you can let us know. Use the Q&A in the Buzzit feature so that we can see that. I'll be monitoring that. Lastly, I just want to say that if you pitch today, you are eligible to actually pitch at the competition, which will be next Thursday. We're going to have our students let us know by Tuesday, midnight, end of night time day. Send an email to Annalisa saying your intent on pitching. That way we can plan out the event and how much time that we actually need. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to check the Buzzit feed. I'm going to stop share for just a minute. And I am going to call on the team Access 360.
Hello, my name is Courtney Bradshaw Clay. I am one of the founders of Access 120. Somehow in the doc it says 360, but it's 120, and that 120 stands for we're dedicated to our students for 120 hours a week. We're focused on building cultural competency of educators to ensure that the students that are in front of them are receiving the most relevant pedagogical practices possible. So with our program, we are making sure that teachers and leaders have the tools to create sustainable structures within their buildings in order to support the academic growth of students in classrooms. So if you are interested in joining our team, we are looking for people to help build out our curriculum. We're looking to build out our website. So please feel free to let us know. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Next up, we have Off-Grid Hydroponic Farm.
Hi, still working on a name. My name is Matt Chisholm. I'm a freshman. I'm majoring in electrical engineering. I'm working on developing off-grid hydroponic farm modules. What hydroponics is, it's a relatively new technology where food is grown artificially without the usage of any soil. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to grow plants virtually anywhere in the world, which can do a lot for communities that struggle with both food scarcity and malnutrition. So I got interested in this about 2 years ago, and I built a farm in my backyard. So it's not like I'm starting from square one. I'm starting from square 3. So I'm trying to build hydroponic technologies that are small, that are scalable, and require minimal maintenance. So I have 3 major challenges that I need help with. 1, I need to ensure that I can create a capable and stable design. I have a couple that I'm playing with, and I need to evaluate where I want to take it from here. 2 is maintaining a reliable power source. A lot of these areas don't have stable grids, and that's going to be a real problem. And 3 is getting communities involved and also finding sources of funding. Those are the 3 things that I really need the most help with. If you think you can help me, I'd love to hear from you. I love talking about this. There's a lot more specifics. All right.
Thank you, Matthew. Great pitch, by the way. Next up, TechDumb Consultancy Service.
Hi, so my name is Vaibhav and I'm the co-founder of TechDumb Consultancy. So TechDumb is the first ever consumer-focused tech consultancy business, which was founded during the COVID-19 pandemic, after looking at how much people struggled with actually shifting to working online. So the way we work is we have a website where we provide product recommendations for people, and they can come to acquire a new service or tech product. And we also offer a personalized one-on-one calling service where people can come to us and tell us how exactly they use their tech products on a daily basis, and we can help them find a perfect product to help suffice their needs. So we are looking for different ways in which we are able to expand our audience currently, since we did launch our website back in July of 2020, and we got a really positive response so far. But we are looking for ways to further expand our reach and to reach out to more people.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Sleep Easy Pillow.
Hi, my name is Anthony Esplin. I had a neighbor that had Down syndrome that would not use a nasal cannula when he slept. So I built him an oxygen pillow. And some of the things that we're looking for our project is more of someone with a finance background, as well as looking to do more problem validation. Currently on the team, we have some biomedical engineering background, as well as a graduate student that works with an IRB. And so those are some of the big hurdles we're looking to get over to bring this product to market.
Thanks, Anthony. Next up, the Emporio Club.
Can you guys hear me? I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie. I'm the founder of the Emporio Club. I'm a second year at the law school. I went to Brandeis University for undergrad. I'm originally from New York. I'm trying to talk fast because I have a little bit to say. My parents are both Jamaican immigrants, and for many years now, my dad has a plot of land in St. Elizabeth, and he's been saying, what do you want to do with this land? You're the smart one. You went to college. What do you want to do with it? And we said to ourselves that the most profitable thing to do would be to build a hotel on it, obviously. But we really, me and my sister, we've been thinking about this. We don't want to do it in a way where we take more than we give back. So we really want to build a socially conscious resort on that land. That's my idea. The Imperial Club is an all-inclusive resort that kind of puts in the wellness and the personal touches that I really enjoy, but it's just really, it's more like a charity in that it's really just giving back. A lot of people in Jamaica, they go to Canada, the United States, the UK if they're really talented. Oh shoot, if you want to know more, come to meet me and join my team.
Thank you so much, Annie. Next up is Rig.
Sorry. Hey guys, I'm Thomas Issa. I'm a senior finance major from Kingston, Jamaica. I love remote work and working from home, and my startup has designed a modular workstation that allows the user to design their rig to best fit their needs. So if a user has two monitors, if they use a laptop and a monitor, and any other electronic device really, we provide them with an ergonomic, desk saving, and sleek way of mounting those electronics. We also offer a portable option, and at the end of the day, our product is designed for the needs of the remote workers. So right now we're looking for mechanical engineers to help us. We're in the thick of our product development phase. So any talented engineers with AutoCAD or SolidWorks experience, I'd love to meet you guys and we can have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Next up, Vet Threads.
Hello. Veterans and military families are as diverse as the country we serve, and the apparel to show pride and service should be as diverse as that population. My name's Kevin, and I spent 27 years in the Air Force, and now I'm an MBA student here at Notre Dame. One of the first things I did when I got on campus, and I was so proud to be a part of Notre Dame, is I went to the bookstore and went to get a shirt or something like that. And the selection was kind of overwhelming. And I started thinking, why don't military veterans have those type of options? So I jumped on the web, and I'll challenge each of you to do the same. Type military veteran space, any apparel item you can think of, a hoodie, a shirt, a hat, and tell me what would you wear after you hit images and what could you wear to class, to work, to any of those things. So my idea is about putting out apparel for military families and veterans and really seeking to serve the underserved and ignored veteran and military populations. I have a logo.
Time, Kevin. So sorry. Next up, Solar Boiler.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, my name is Aiden Robertson. My idea is something I call a solar boiler. Essentially what it does is it takes on the same basic shape that a solar oven would take, except it is supposed to be filled, part of its volume is supposed to be filled with water, and it would end up being boiled directly with a higher concentration of sunlight that reflects down to absorb by it, heat energy boils that. This would end up generating a lot of steam inside, which could then be released, turn a turbine, produce electricity, and that clean water that was just boiled could later be filtered out and condensed into a clean water supply for developing communities that it could be placed in. What I'm looking for specifically are students, or I guess really anyone who's got more experience in higher math and sciences, as I'm only a freshman. So I'm only in Calc 1 and chemistry. I don't have as much physics and higher math background. So someone who knows how to calculate pressure or maybe what materials are the best for me, and other people who might be familiar with regions where this could be a more applicable design.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Next up, let's see. Chris Merrill with Education Analytics.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris. Let's put it like this. Every student once in their life has looked at their grades and saw that it was lower than what they thought and they want to raise it. Where do they start? How did they get there? Every college student realizes finals week they don't have enough time to study for everything to get the best grades. What should they focus on? Every teacher has gotten to a point where they say, okay, what parts of my lesson do I really need to focus on with my students that can help everyone? The problem is everyone looks at grades, except those are vague. They don't give you specifics. I'm here to create an education platform or an LPM that gives you data based on concepts and a method to do so. So then people can hone in exactly what concepts and material they really need to focus on and where they're struggling and where they're doing well. Essentially, I need help with developers. I need someone to help me create the platform, but I also want as much input as I can get from people for the logistics for each grade, each style, each type of school, whether it's secondary education or elementary or college, to design it as best I can. So,
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Illuminate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe, and I'm a senior at Notre Dame. 5 years ago, my grandfather passed away after suffering many years with severe memory loss, and I watched as my grandmother valiantly worked to help him in the best ways he can, showing old photo books, videos, telling him stories to try to stimulate his memory the best he could. But I saw that he continuously became agitated and scared as their assisted living facility was not a home and it was foreign to him. So Illuminate seeks to ensure the care and comfort of patients suffering with dementia or memory loss by leveraging virtual reality technology as a digital therapeutic. We hope to stimulate the senses, vision, and hearing in order to put them into a realistic and artificial environment with family pictures going through old neighborhood homes and the likes in order to kind of stimulate this interaction without fear of endangerment. So I am in particular need of software engineers, so if there are anyone who have that particular skill set, I could really benefit from that. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Timetable.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Logan Balfans. I'm a freshman at Notre Dame, and this is my first pitch. So my idea essentially is for service-based workers, barbers. I'm personally a barber. I've been cutting for the past 6 years of my life. Hairstylists, nail techs, eyebrow techs. A lot of them have moved to an online scheduling system. They've also started getting payments online. Because these services are recurring, haircuts, getting your nails done every so many weeks, I've wondered why these services haven't become subscription services. That way, all of these service workers can have a more stable income, especially during a time like COVID, as well as having customers be able to save money and, kind of build that rapport between their barbers or, their service workers and themselves. Thank you for your time. I'm still very early on, so if anyone's willing to help me find out more about the problem or talk to more people about it, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Logan. Next up, Joanna with Dodo Date Bars.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joanna Helm. I'm a sophomore at Notre Dame studying finance and entrepreneurship. My idea is for Dodo Date Bars is the name I gave it for the time being. And it's for a candy bar that utilizes dates as the main ingredient. So when you go to a gas station or a grocery store, there's no candy bar or anything chocolate related that utilizes healthy, natural from the earth ingredients. And the trend right now in the food industry is going towards this, less refined sugars, less chemicals and things like that. And I think people like me with the sweet tooth would really appreciate options that go along with these trends. I know that there's some existing options in the fruity side of candy, but there's really not much on the chocolate side, especially in the form of a candy bar. So this candy bar specifically would be dates as the main ingredient in the center, which are extremely naturally sweet, and then coated in an all-natural peanut butter and then raw cacao chocolate coating. And you can get creative with the type of nut butters and things like that. So
thank you so much. Next up, we have Memory Made.
All right. Hi, I'm Ian Coates. I'm studying industrial design and marketing at Notre Dame. I'm a freshman, and my idea is called Memory Made. The goal is to make products that inspire memories that make life worth living. At the core, Memory Made is a higher fashion clothing company. Our brand essence is basing the aesthetic of the clothes off of memories, which is why the main feature of the company is being able to put your own memory or a picture on our own design clothes. The clothes are meant to have an almost nostalgic design, and each pair of clothing, while not mandatory, allows the customer to add their own memories to the clothing. I plan on having an online website that completely mimics a brick and mortar retail store. We want more engagement than just people buying clothes. So along with the store, there will be a media section called Memories, where people can upload a short clip or story of a memory they've made and edit in a picturesque moment that can be put in our apparel. We're looking for more web designers and producers to help us come up with the website, as well as fashion designers if they want our help in determining what the clothes would look like. But overall, it's just a clothing store that allows consumers to make their clothes unique and encourage them to make more memories.
Thank you, Ian. Next up, we have Brava.
Hello, my name is Lilia, and I...
Yes, yeah.
Ian, put yourself on mute.
Hello, my name is Lilia, and as a woman with larger bust and smaller chest, I struggle with finding a bra that fits. And for the entirety of my life, I struggled with finding a good bra. And the good bras are expensive, and with the salary I have, even at Notre Dame, I cannot afford those bras. They also have limited adjustment options and are produced for a narrow demographic that I do not conform to, that my body doesn't conform to. They're also painful and unhealthy. And I've spoken to 150 women who confirmed that I'm not the only one experiencing these issues. So I decided to start Brava Company, which is a lingerie business which provides inclusive quality lingerie at an affordable price. If you're interested in helping me out, get this started, I would appreciate it if you could contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to preference, keep refreshing your Buzzit feed because we are adding a few in that entered in the wrong area, so we're kind of updating that right now. The next participant is going to be the One Method, Tom and Susan Newell.
Hi, my name is Susan Newell, and our idea is a framework for integrated well-being and lifelong learning. Why are we doing this? To address many of today's problems that include learners wanting to direct their own learning, parents who started to homeschool or are being forced to be more involved in their children's education, schools reimagining K through 12 education to deal with the whole child, high schools and colleges redeveloping curricula and assessments, and employers wanting mastery of 21st century skills. Therefore, we came up with a method that will help us live holistically, learn strategically, lead proactively, and legacy thoughtfully. It's for anyone at any age, stage, or phase in life, individually or collaboratively. And it is a single, adaptable, comprehensive roadmap that's easy to use in understandable language and scaffolded. And we are looking for people who have skills in marketing, IT, or individuals involved in education and neuroscience.
Okay, Susan, time. Thank you. Next one up is Spot Me.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I want to share a story of the first time I went to the gym. I felt extremely uncomfortable and super intimidated, but I ended up sticking around, and I realized that the lifting community is like any other, a community of all different types of people who are motivated, who are there to motivate each other and keep each other safe. Spot Me is a niche social media platform that helps to eliminate the discomfort and intimidation when starting out lifting. And it helps to keep all those who lift weights motivated and safe by making organizing and sharing workouts easier. I have one partner, Jail. We currently have a developed wireframe, but we're looking for coding help as well as social media help. If you're interested, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up, it's Let's Vibe.
All right. Hey, everybody, I'm Mo, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm in love with music, okay? I love music. I want to help people do what they love, because I know I don't really have that right now. And you might ask what's in the way of people doing music, and I say lack of resources. Lack of resources equals lack of motivation. Lack of motivation equals wasted talent. So my idea, it's really a baby right now, but my idea is sports have clubs, robots have clubs. Why don't people have clubs, okay? So I want to solve this. I don't know if you know what Guitar Center is in Sweetwater, but instead of just going somewhere to purchase the instruments, you're going to be using them. It's going to be a chain of mini studio jams around places where you can go and people can vibe. If you love music like I love music, hit me up and let's vibe together. Peace out.
Thank you, Mo. Next up, Locum with Sailor Solar.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lachman Adnane, founder and CEO of Sailor Solar. Name is tentative to change. We're having a team vote this weekend. But our motto is advancing sustainability and innovating our future, or SF for short. SF in Arabic is repentance. And it's basically humanity's redemption story to how much we've damaged our planet. And what we seek to do is to make a large-scale difference in the fight against climate change by observing models in nature. Seeing promise in hydrogen fuel, we aim to make its production more accessible, affordable, and efficient. Through designing a hydrogen production method more integrable with our current energy infrastructure, we hope to decouple the world's reliance on harmful fossil fuel sources. By implementing our idea in oil-rich nations, we will facilitate a safe and swift transition to green energy. And our first primary market is in Algeria. We actually uploaded our first concept design on the bottom of my Ideas That Matter profile. You can click on the link for Vimeo, and you'll see our first concept. But if you would like to know more about myself, just reach out. We're looking for engineers in a diversity of different industries, but primarily nuclear and electrical right now. So if you know anyone that would be interested in this project, reach out. And if you're interested in learning more, reach out to me or click on the link on my Ideas That Matter profile. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next one up is Winnie with COPA.
Hello, my name is Winnie Mangeni, and I'm an esteemed student, and I'm also the founder of COPA. So you realize that in America, almost everybody has mobile phones, but 25% of Americans who have mobile phones don't have bank accounts. So that's where COPA comes in, whereby we offer a digital virtual banking system using a SIM card to help people who are underbanked, underserved with the banking system to be able to create transactions between family and friends, between businesses, and also just between even other vendors and restaurants. So currently, we are looking for software developers, people to help with market research, because we are still in the developing phase for the platform itself, so that we can be able to find a way how we can put the SIM card to actually work with the banking system. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. Next up, we have Griffin with Recycled Living.
Hey, my name's Griffin, and I'm a freshman in the Gateway program studying computer science. My company is called Recycled Living, and I plan on turning waste into art. I want to use a machine called a protocycler that takes plastic waste and transforms it into 3D printable filament. I'll then use that filament to 3D print different types of modern art, such as sculptures, wall decor, and other products. My interest in 3D printing started in high school. I was elected student body president and used my position to initiate a 3D printing lab. The protocycler is my only startup cost. If I just collect recycled bottles across campus, I can use it to produce 10 feet of filament a minute. So in an 8-hour workday, that's 13 spools. Marketing will be done completely online through social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, where I've got a decent amount of followers. Each of our products are created from 100% plastic waste, offering our consumers the ability to feel environmentally conscious, and I plan on donating 10% of the profits to environmental causes. I'd love to have anybody on the team. Doesn't matter your major. Come join me.
Thank you so much, Griffin. Next up, Winnie is pitching a different idea, EduT.
Yeah, hello once again. EduT is a platform that enables students to get tutors, and also, especially like grade students, to get tutors for a cheaper and more affordable way, such that we target underserved population in America, because especially right now with the coronavirus situations, you find that parents are trying to get tutors for their students, but it's really expensive. So we are creating a one-stop sort of kind of like an Uber platform, whereby we can be able to source people from international markets. Right now we are looking into Kenya to help students around like in America, to help in the, let's say, math and STEM courses, so that they can be able to be successful in school. And currently we are looking for almost anybody to help with research, web designing, and also just anybody with any major with an interest in education and technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. So next up we have Meraki, I don't know if I said that right, Art Company.
Yeah, Meraki Art Company. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So if you walk around Michiana and ask artists where they get their art supplies, they're going to kind of give you a frustrated mutter of some department store and online mixture. Meraki Art Company would be the first retail art supply store in Michiana, the first place for students from South Bend, Elkhart, Goshen, and Fort Wayne to get their art supplies from hands-on artists who care about the creation process. This is more than a little stop to Michael's. This is a destination where the moment you walk in the door, you're guided to creating pieces that leave little pieces of yourself behind. Not everyone is born an artist, but everyone has a story, and we want to give you the tools and resources to create yours. Meraki is starting by opening a dance studio that will be the first contemporary dance studio in Michiana. That's actually happening next month. It will be empowering young women through expression and teamwork. We will continue to drive our soul and our work into developing the youth in the community. Our marketing route right now is for all of our products. Our products are coming from all over the world. Every product has a unique story, just like every person has a unique story.
Okay, time. So sorry.
You're good.
Next up, Morel.
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm Eduardo, and if you are a Latino or Latin American reader, writer, or scholar, you have faced this every time you have looked for a book that you need from the public domain. The search engines always drive you to unreliable sources, absurdly expensive secondhand books, or very rough Kindle editions that charge you just for putting at disposition the public domain material on popular shelves such as Amazon or Noble. So Morel is an open source methodology for the free consultation and downloads of works in the Latin American public domain. In a friendly user interface and user experience environment. We developed it in Venezuela, and we are managing it in a cooperative and self-sustaining way. By Latin American scholars, editors, and writers. We need help with marketers, we need legal advice, but the website is up and running in its basic version, and in its final version, it will allow to link in dynamic lists, free downloadable works with authors, dates, publishers, virtual repositories.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. Next, that's okay. You can check out his profile. Next up is Brain Drive. Make sure you mute yourself. Brain Drive, Jude.
Yeah, can you see and hear me?
Yes.
All right. This little guy right here, the human brain, works according to logic and rules that the psychological science has been trying to discover since the early 20th century. Unlike our cars, we are almost never taught how to drive the most important machine of all, our brain. How we drive our brain can make the difference between debilitating suffering or a life well lived. Hi, I'm Jude, an engineer and rising clinical psychologist, and I'll be presenting my startup, Brain Drive. Brain Drive is a mental health application that offers evidence-based, tech-powered, and accessible exercises that use artificial intelligence and art. Pilot testing has shown that Brain Drive helped users dramatically decrease symptoms of mood psychopathology like depression and anxiety, as well as improve concentration, sleep, and overall life quality. If you're into science, technology, mental health, and changing people's lives, Brain Drive might have a place for you. Let's work together to deliver science-backed, cutting-edge mental health for all.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next up, Bridge U.
Hi, my name's Alexandra Klemsky. I'm a sophomore, and I'm going to be presenting to you our app, Bridge U. I'm representing two of my other teammates tonight, too. So basically, our idea is for a dating networking app where we're bridging the gap between social life and professional life. So right now as a student, it's obviously very hard to meet other students, especially with everything going on. So we thought that it would be a great idea to come up with some kind of platform that's geared towards college students using your .edu email, where you're only able to see other students that go to your college in your area. So we would market this to the tri-campus, and we would be able to filter based off of major, class year, things like that. So basically, instead of Tinder or LinkedIn, we can actually see the social side and the professional side, gaining a more holistic outlook at other students, and just creating a space where you can actually connect with other people who have similar goals and aspirations as you. And we're thinking about using video chat features as well, and possibly having the option to add a resume so you can really see the interest that you'd have with another person. And also, we have the idea of not only being able to use this as a dating site, but also a way to make connections, learn about opportunities, and meet new friends. So we have our team established right now, but we will probably need help in the future with coding and computer software. So if anyone would be interested in that, that would be awesome. And yeah.
You're good. Thank you so much. Next up, Equbeam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine, and I am a first-year MBA student, and I'm presenting the idea for Equbeam. It's a temporary name, but after living in Ecuador for about 2 years, working in education and community development, my passion for the country and its people grew, and so did my passion for Ecuadorian coffee. So after learning more about the coffee industry, I learned about the huge wealth disparity within the coffee supply chain. So I've been developing this dream to partner with small-scale coffee farmers in Ecuador to transform the communities there. So bringing it back more locally, I'd like to combine my passion for Ecuadorian coffee with my background in education and empowering communities to be social change agents within their community. So my hope is to develop a community-centered coffee shop space here in South Bend where we can talk about relevant social issues while sourcing beans directly from Ecuador and thus empowering a variety of communities. So it's very much so in the beginning stages. So if anyone is interested in coffee or just bringing community together, please definitely check out my breakout room. And
all right. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Flash Notes.
Hi guys, my name is Ryan Hoffman and I'm a sophomore at Notre Dame. So I, like many students, have a lot of tests to study for and like using flashcards to study for a lot of these tests. However, during one of my recent tests, I realized that the stack of my flashcards that I'd made was about this thick, and I'd spent almost as much time making the flashcards as I had studying them. So Flash Notes will take your notes that you've made on your computer and automatically convert them into online flashcards based on how you indented them. This is much more time effective than even copy and pasting into Quizlet and much more effective than handwriting them. Thank you for your time. I hope to see some of you in the breakout room.
Thank you so much. Next up, ARMS.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin. I'm a graduate student in the ESTEAM program here. Basically, 10 months ago, I called my cousin who has muscular dystrophy. He's in Colorado, and I said, what would be the biggest improvement to your daily life? And he said afternoon independence. And what he meant by that was being able to pick up things on his desk, such as a glass of water, blow his nose, take pills, even brush his teeth, and things like that. So what I've developed over the course of the time is an on-desk crane with a Bluetooth joystick to enable him to be able to use his wrist to facilitate grabbing and using, interacting with items on his desk, on his counter, or in his bathroom. So basically what I'm asking for is any sort of mechanical engineer who has an idea or maybe an interesting way it could work, then also customer validation. It works for him, and so I want to be able to apply it to a large amount of people. So if anyone you know has muscular dystrophy, ALS, multiple sclerosis, or any disease that impacts their ability and their upper limb weakness, I'd love to reach out to them so I can be able to improve this device and modulate it to be able to help as many people as I possibly can. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next up, Car Camp.
Yeah, hi, my name is Samuel Voles. I'm a senior econ major and my company is Car Camp. Car Camp is a platform you can put in the back of your car that transforms your ordinary trunk into a tiny house on wheels. It's a physical platform that helps sleeping and organizing the content of your trip, making for a more enjoying journey, all at an affordable price. So this summer, like most Americans, me and one of my friends packed up and headed out west, trying to figure out something to do to take our mind off the pandemic. I'm unable to use hotels. We noticed the amazing ways in people camp. Our mission is to set out and make setting up campsites easier, provide a safer alternative to sleeping in a tent, and allow people to camp and visit places they have never imagined. We would like for you to join us as we revolutionize the way people travel and camp throughout the country.
Thank you so much. And last up, we have Mike Altenberger with Mike.
Hi, I'm actually representing R&R Industries. Our company began when a friend was reselling products on eBay and Facebook Marketplace and started looking at different ways to find merchandise. He discovered that e-commerce, returns in e-commerce actually add up to about $41 billion worth of value every year. And that many Amazon and many other online distribution centers can't resell these products, but instead resell them through an auction platform on liquidation websites. You can buy pallets of electronics or jewelry or clothing but it's very difficult to determine the best value. And it's even more difficult to take these products and upload them to redistribution and sales sites like Facebook Marketplace and eBay. So we've developed software to determine the best pallets, the values to purchase via the auction platform. And we've also come up with an app that allows you to automatically upload these products to Facebook Marketplace and eBay. So it really streamlines the process and allows you to resell things really rapidly and take a chunk out of a huge resale market. And we're looking for people to help out with marketing and distribution.
All right, thank you so much. All right, this is the last presentation that we have scheduled for tonight. We were trying to accommodate everybody as they came through. We are going to be getting close to time. I just want to let you know that we'll stay as long as you guys need to be working on things. So I'm going to share my screen real quick to remind everybody what is up here. So right now, Annalisa is going to be assigning people to breakout rooms. So first, all the presenters will be going into their rooms, and then any students who have signed up to go into that breakout room, she will assign you to those rooms. If you have a question, if you need help, if you want one of us to come to your room, use the question portion on Buzz It to write that in there, and I will handle that portion of it. Remember to refresh your profiles on for the Buzz It so that you can see any of the new ones that we added. And also presenters, you can be looking at the attendees, and if the attendees had filled out their information about what their interests were, you can also peruse them and ask for them to connect in with you. So we're going to kind of have a quiet time right now. I wish I had some cool music to play while this is all happening. I'm going to talk about a couple other things here. Oops, let me go to this one. So what's coming up? So the messaging that we sent out was, if you wanted to pitch for the competition next Thursday, you had to pitch at this event. If you want to talk to me about anything different, we can talk offline about that. But I do want to let you know that there are other opportunities to pitch coming up. Next 2 Tuesdays, 9/29, we're going to have the Idea Challenge. That is a 60-second pitch, so much like the students pitch today. You're going to say, hi, my name is this is what I'm working on, and it's really going to be just a one pitch after another, and we'll actually be using this platform, and you can vote for your favorite pitches, and we have cash prizes for that also. So there's another opportunity for you to be pitching. Also coming up is the McCloskey New Venture Competition. The first round submission is just a 2-page overview and a video submission of your pitch. So again, this does not have to be a fully formatted idea. The work that you're doing here today is going to be amazing on what you can create going forward. And that deadline is October 18th. Lastly, anybody who has pitched here tonight, these were some amazing ideas. Please consider submitting those to the Idea Center. Just go to ideacenter.md.edu, go to Student Entrepreneurship, and click Submit Your Idea. What happens with that is you will get assigned a startup coach. You will get opportunities to attend speed pitches. You'll have workshop opportunities and access to funding and resources. Remember, the Idea Center does not take any equity in student ideas. And so really this is a risk-free environment for you to explore, to gather resources. Also, what is today? Thursday. Today, there should have been an email that went out called Student Connections. Student Connections is a platform that we use to match students who are interested in working with startups who are looking for students. So vice versa, if you're a student looking for team members, you can fill out Student Connections. If you're a student who wants to get on a team, fill out Student Connections. So that's great ways to organize each other. When you guys are filling out, I'm going to stop share for just a minute. When you guys are filling out the information in this Google Sheet that Annalisa has provided, we will be able to connect you. So tonight, if you don't get connected, we will be able to connect you with those students. Use the profile information in Buzzit. That will stay live with this event. Every time you go back to buzzit.ca and type in the event code ITM, all of this information will remain here. So you'll be able to go back, look at the profiles of the ideas that were pitched, and you will also be able to see the students that attended. So it's just a really great way of kind of keeping everything together. And so with that, I will take anybody can unmute themselves and ask me questions going forward from here.
Hi, I just had a quick question about the pitch competition next week. How long would you prefer our pitch to be?
I believe it's going to be a 5-minute pitch.
Okay.
For each one of those, and you should have gotten the pitch deck. We're going to email that out to you guys.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to clarify, so if we didn't talk about our idea today, we can't pitch next week.
So that was in the messaging. Was there some communication that you didn't understand clearly?
Hi, Patty. If I can jump in, I just double checked the email, and the languaging, like the messaging on it, was you must attend the first workshop, not that you must pitch at the first workshop. And so I can see how there may have been a miscommunication if that's what people were seeing, and that's why they attended today.
Okay, so those who feel that the purpose of today was to help you find team members to get your idea out there. But if you want to pitch, send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat. And then we will get back with you on that. The whole reason why that was the thought process was so that we could set this up appropriately. We have to have everything lined up ahead of time. So, but just, remain patient, as this is the first time we've actually done this event virtually. So we're trying to deal with a whole bunch of stuff right now.
And guys, I've been popping some people into different rooms, some participants, so you might kind of disappear here into a room.
Patty, I think my room disappeared. My breakout room.
Is this Winnie?
Yeah, and also since I have 2 projects, like, do I have one breakout room? So
I put you just in one breakout room since you can't be in 2 places at once. But let me pop you back in there.
Thank you.
Of course.
I just wanted to clarify, by the way. So like my breakout room says Medusa, which is the name of the project, but the name of the company is Sailor Solar. Just didn't want anyone to be confused.
I also have a clarifying question. So if I am leading a breakout room, essentially, what is the expectation during this time frame? And is there a time frame that we are fulfilling? Are we starting on the slide deck?
So this is to hopefully meet students who are interested in your idea, and then it's really a networking opportunity. So you guys can choose to work for as long as you want to. I'm not going to kick anybody out, but we really just thought it'd be great for people to go in, meet, talk, decide next plans, whatever. You guys can work in that room. You can work on a Jamboard and get some ideas flowing, but really it's just more like a networking type thing.
Got it. I love that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I have a quick clarifying question as well.
Yes, sir.
So if we didn't pitch today, but we like someone else's pitch and want to join their team, does that mean we would be involved in the pitch competition next week, or no?
Yeah, so if you join somebody's team and you guys are a team together, you decide as a team, how you're going to pitch that. If you're going to split it up between people, is one person going to do all of the presenting? It would be just like any other kind of pitch you would do for a classroom group project. You would just decide on who's going to be working on that and how that's going to work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't want to discourage anyone, but since it's on, the meeting was set till 9, was it?
Correct. And we had way more pitches than actually registered
No,
originally.
no, I'm not complaining. Just saying that I think maybe like to connect with other students, like the platform we're using could be more useful than, like joining a breakout room, like with a
Yes,
rush.
you can choose whatever you would like to do.
Yeah, since I pitched, I didn't want to leave without asking before, but I think considering the time.
Yep, if you need to go and you're not in your breakout room and somebody signed up on the Google Sheet, you have access to that so you can see and you can connect with them then.
That's great. Thanks for your time. It was amazing. Take care.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I know when I tried to go into the breakout room, it kicked me out, and I think Courtney said the same thing. Like, how do I get back into it now?
Could you say your name and your venture again? I'm so sorry that happened. What's your venture name?
Let's Vibe. Yeah, you remember. Okay, or maybe.
Oh, what is it? Vibe?
Yeah, Let's Vibe.
Okay, 1 second. I love your pitch, by the way. It's awesome.
Thank you.
If it's possible, can I get into my room too? I'm Courtney Bradshaw Clay with Access 120.
Did it kick you out, Courtney? You're one of the first ones that I did. Oh, shoot. Okay.
I also don't have access to my room.
No.
Just be patient, everyone. It's only one person can enter people into the room, so we're trying our best to make sure we get everybody.
It's Zooming in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I had a similar issue, but.
Okay, Mariah should be in. Who else needed to be put back in their room?
Courtney.
And what was your venture name, Courtney?
Access 120.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right, who else needed to be popped in?
I did. Logan with timetable.
Logan. Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Matt with Off Grid.
Matt. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why I picked you.
No worries.
All right. Is there anyone else that got kicked out?
Andy with Employer Club.
No. Okay. What was your venture name?
Employer Club.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Patty, this one might be one where we don't have enough breakout rooms.
Have you got everybody assigned in there?
Almost everyone. Someone's just asking for some help in the breakout room, so I'll be right back. Give me a second here. We are almost done, guys. Alex, are you in your recycled living room or are you still in the main room? Okay, he's good. Okay, we've got brain drive.
Mentors, facilitators, anyone that has a place that they know they want to go ahead and put that in the Google Sheet too. And then we'll wait for Q&A if you're still around.
How do I go into the breakout room?
Which one?
Patty, I think we don't have enough breakout rooms, and Annie's is one.
Was that one of the last ones?
Yeah, that was one of the last ones. Yep.
Does she have students that want to meet with her?
Yes, Corey Delano has her name down here.
Is Corey still present?
I don't know.
It looks like Corey is not on here, but Patty, what do you think about
Let's make an email connection for her.
Yeah, we'll make an email connection for you, Annie.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
All right. So I will see you guys later.
Thank you.
Reach out if you're interested, or just say hi if you see me around campus. All right, bye.
Bye.
Is there a breakout for the one method, or should we sign out?
1 second here. Yep. So one method does have a breakout. Right now, there's no students who had signed up for that specific line there. But Patty, what do you think about sending out contacts just to make sure everyone can add their names if they wanted to?
Everybody has access to this spreadsheet, so we'll send out a reminder for connections.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Awesome. So Kevin White, I don't think Kevin is on here anymore. So everyone should be in a room. Is anyone looking to get in a room that they haven't been able to?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. And who needs? So I saw Risa, and then I don't see your name here. I could be totally missing it. Which one do you want to get into?
My name is Gabriel. Can I get into off grid?
Off grid?
Yeah, me too. I want to be in that one too.
Off grid? Okay. Just give me 1 second. Okay, Risa's going in, and then who was the other person that wanted to go in?
Living.
Sorry, 1 second. What was the other off-grid one?
Gabriel Shake.
Gabriel?
Isabella Rascon.
Popular. Okay, and then someone wanted to do recycled living?
Yeah, I wanted to do recycled living.
Okay, awesome.
Let's see how this goes.
Annalisa, did you have any rooms left over? Because I think R&R Industries, and we were very late, did not
have enough rooms for you guys because we had to pre-populate it. That's why we kind of try not to do that. I do have one student for car camp and one student for the Emporio Club. So we can make those connections with you unless the students are still on right now, and then you guys can connect, either just talk through here or connect offline.
Risa, you should be getting an invite there. You've got to accept it for breakout room 4.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, is there anyone else?
Hello, I was in my breakout room, but no one joined for over 5 minutes, so I just left. Should I go back? Like, what do you, yeah.
No students signed up currently for yours, so if we'll keep this Google Sheet open and send it back out to students, so if anybody has an interest, they can sign up and then we'll make an email connection for you, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, Lilia, your venture sounded so awesome, and you should definitely, are you a grad student here?
Yeah, I am.
You should definitely submit it because we have tons of processes and funding to help de-risk your business. So we will send you tons of links.
I'm already meeting with my startup coach. Like, I have been working there, and I signed up to pitch tomorrow.
Good.
Awesome. I cannot wait.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, and also pitching on the 24th, I suppose, because I attended this meeting. My coach told me that I can pitch multiple times.
Yes, you can. That is correct.
Okay. Well,
if you have any questions, the facilitators are still here if there's anything that we can help you with.
Yeah, I do have one question. So right now, I believe that I validated the problem, but I haven't validated the solution. I have it in my head, but I haven't gone and surveyed people or talked to anybody about my solution validation. So before I pitch I won't have enough time to prepare that for tomorrow, but for the 24th, I might. Would you recommend that I already have that data ready, or how would I go about that? Does my question make sense?
Yes. I would think about it less as data and just see like, can you get 5 or 10 people who you think are your target, maybe even some of the same people who you did the validation with, and have like a version of it that would be like one product that you would basically be putting in front of them and saying like, would you buy this? So you don't have to physically have the bra yet, but can you make like a one pager or even like a landing page of a website that has like a sketch of the drawing in it, and then maybe 3 or 4 characteristics of like what about it you think is different that people would want. And then see like, can you get people to give you their email addresses or some kind of information that says like, hey, sign up here, like this is in development, sign up here to get notified when it's available for purchase. Mm-hmm. And then from those email addresses, you can see like, can you contact those people and ask if they'll get on a 15-minute phone call and say, hey, I saw that you were interested in this. I would love to hear more about like what you're thinking and why you submitted your email, and just hear them tell you kind of what they were thinking. But I would put a price on it too. So you're able to gauge both, like, are you solving a problem they have, but also are you pricing it in a way that they are like, they're not just kind of discarding it for one reason or the other.
Okay, cool. Well, I do have 17 emails already from my first survey. So those are the people that I'm going to talk to.
Awesome. Yeah. So the best kind of like once you've validated the problem, the next level test is like, put something in front of them that looks like literally they would like click buy here. And you're trying to get them to like imagine they're making the decision to click the buy here button, even though there's nothing for them to buy yet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I also had another question. So we've pitched already, and we've gone through problem validation and solution validation right now. And for our first survey, we had 200 responses, and then we did in-depth interviews and we had 30 responses. And right now we're doing a second phase of questioning. Like the first phase was kind of asking about dating apps and culture and things like that. And then the second phase of our questioning is going to be getting into more of the details of networking and if people would use an app like this if it existed. So I wanted to ask you guys if you think we should just do in-depth interviews or if we should also do another online survey like we did in the first phase.
What are you trying to learn?
Well, for the questions we're asking now, we're basically asking if an app existed where you can network and you could meet a significant other, would you use it? Like, that's our main question. And then asking people, like, do you feel like there's a need for dating apps to have like a more holistic way to meet other people? Would you use a video chat?
Yeah. So I'm going to just pause you there. I'm going to like beat up on you for a second. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to help.
Please do.
Can you imagine asking somebody that question and them saying no?
No, you're right. You're definitely right. Wait, I should actually go to the questions I'm asking and like, read them to you.
Yeah. It's something that's like so natural to want to do because you obviously like you see like potential and you've had these validation conversations. So like your instinct is to like kind of lead people along. So a way to try to reframe those is to just center back on getting to stories. And so instead of saying like, would you want it to work like this? Say like, tell me about the last time you went on a first date or tell me about the last time you wanted to meet somebody new. Like, what did you do? How did that work? Tell me about the last date you went on. Like, how did you get connected with that person? What happened? And then you're trying to hear like both positive and negatives kind of in the stories they're telling you on the validation side. I know, Dustin, if you want to jump in more on the solution validation.
Yeah, the solution validation, I think like what Maria's saying is your value propositions are kind of hard to argue with, right? Like, sure, like, of course I would love that. I think the reason sometimes surveys can be tough is there's not a lot of cost to like submitting a survey or answering yes or no to it, right? So it's like, sure, I'll take the survey and click, yes. That's for sure. It sounds great. I would try to like probably on solution validation, try to get a little bit more in depth. So try to get people to go to a landing page, try to get them to give you a piece of information or something that like actually kind of more simulates what it would be like to actually go and like decide to use your solution, as opposed to like, would you theoretically use a theoretical solution that is, because you're generally going to say like, would you theoretically use something that's theoretically better than all the other things you've used? like, yeah, of course I would love to do that. I think if you can actually get it though to look more like the actual experience of what it would be like to use the solution, or to like get to the point where I say like, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up, you're probably going to get more quality information than just the survey. So if you have a big list of people, I would send them like do you have you used like Squarespace before or anything like that?
No, I'm not super familiar with that is. We've been on Bubble a little bit, but
awesome.
Yes, I love Bubble.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out. I'm not the most tech savvy person ever. But I figured we don't need to have everything exactly. Like we don't need to have the app built quite yet, but
yeah. So even before like actually building an app, like, and even you could even do this with a PDF or something.
Okay.
But what I would try to do is like design a page kind of like we talked about at the end of the deck, where it's like the banner part of the page is like, do you know, whatever is going to be the problem resonating sentence. So do you really hate being on the current day data apps because blah, 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 whatever you've heard from your validation. Like we are a dating app that does X, Y, Z. So whatever you think the value propositions are, here's how it works. So give the specifics of your solution, what you're saying is going to happen, and then try to get them to take an action. So like put your name and email here and send it to us if you want to be on our beta list, or if you want to be alerted when this thing is actually going to go live. You're still obviously not getting people to actually use it yet, but it's probably a much better barometer of information rather than just like, do you want to use something that's better than the other things you've used?
Okay. So do you think the best way to go about that would be to actually make some kind of platform where people could click that right now? Or like, because I want to have more data on this by Sunday so that we can meet with our coach and possibly John Henry before the competition to see how else we can improve. But how do you think I could go about doing this and giving the user the experience without having something actually created where they can click?
If I was you, I would literally make a storyboard that you draw on a piece of paper like this, where you're like drawing what it looks like for somebody to interact with it, whatever the version you have right now is. And then like obviously respecting social distance. So probably like taking a picture of it, but then getting on Zoom calls and literally just like showing it to people and saying like, hey, here's the thing. Like, here's how it works. First this, then this, then this. What do you think? And then like be quiet, be okay with some silence. It's awkward, but like if you don't talk, they will, and they'll probably tell you something good. And get them to like give you specifics. So like hopefully they'll start asking questions like, oh, but like when I log in, like, will I be able to see their resumes right away? Or like, can I search by this thing? And just stick to always answering the question with a question. And from that, you'll get really, really good information about like, hopefully more of the nitty gritty of how people are responding to the solution.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is such great advice. I'm so glad I'm asking you guys these questions right now.
Yeah, good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Thank you. So how do you think would be the best way, actually, before I ask you that, do you think when I design like the storyboard of what I want it to look like, should I include all of the features that we plan on having in it right now, like completely design it how I think it should be, and then get the feedback from their experience?
Yep.
Okay. And how do you think I should go about documenting what I say? Like, I've just been doing it in an Excel document right now. Is there any certain way you think I should present the information in the deck or anything?
Yeah, like the best, so I'll answer two ways. One, like the more important question is like, how can you stave and organize the information for you to be able to learn and do something with it? So we really like using like actual literal Post-it notes, putting them on that grid of like what worked, what didn't work, what questions do they have, what ideas do they have. If you have a team you're collaborating with, there's also like a digital whiteboarding software called Miro. That's free, and I think you can get like a premium account with your EDU address. But I would also do that, but I would literally just put those 4 quadrants and sort everything you're hearing into those. Can be a really great way for you to process it. In terms of like, how do you present that in a way that's compelling for people listening during a pitch? Usually like quotes and little snippets of stories are the best way to communicate that. So if you see like a cluster of like themes around people are responding, try to capture it like in a quote. And then kind of maybe you'd have like 2 or 3 quotes on your customer validation page that's really highlighting like the themes of what you've learned.
Hey Alexandra, if you don't mind, I can share my screen really quickly on something that this is a total side project. It never turned into anything, but me and a friend do a podcast together, and we got really frustrated because whenever we would listen to podcasts who had like a guest that was not in the studio with them, the audio always sucked. Like it was just like, I don't know if you ever listen to a podcast and it's like, are you talking through a tin can and trying to like record this? It doesn't make sense. So it kind of made us mad. So we were like, oh, we should see if there's any validation for that. So we created like a really simple 1-page website to see if we could get validation that people might be interested in the solution we had come with.
It took them like 20 minutes to make this website.
So I'll share my screen here so you can see.
Okay, yes. I'm willing to hear about all of this. This is great information.
Okay, it's not live anymore, but this was the site. So just 1 page. So can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we just had up top like things that we knew mattered to people, which was like quality audio, and this is specifically trying to target people who were the hosts of podcasts. So that's who we're aimed at. So you'll notice like we put in a little bit of like the problem here. So are you frustrated by the audio quality when you interview remote guests? Your listeners are probably too. We can help. And then we knew like from some of our interviews that a lot of this was about like them taking pride in their work. That was the value proposition. So that's what we kind of put front and center. Then we scrolled down. We had a picture here of this like box that we jerry-rigged, but we took it off. But then we just said like really simply how we thought it was going to work. So you tell us your name, email, or your guest. We coordinate the kit. We ship it to you. You ship it back. You're all done. A little quote from someone we had talked to. And then like, do you want to learn more? And so what we did is then we went and like posted this in different places where we thought these people might hang out. So for example, we posted it in a Reddit channel that was all about podcasting. And like we got like, I don't know, 20 emails of people who like said, oh yeah, that's like, I host podcasts. That really sucks. Blah, blah, blah. Like I want to hear about what your thing is. And so then we took the emails, then we would email them. And instead of saying like, cool, like we'll let you know when it's done, we email them back and say like, we're still working on this. It's still very much a work in progress. But it sounds like you have this issue. Can we jump on a 30-minute call and talk to you about what you would be looking for in a solution?
Okay.
And then the goal is like you get them on the call. It doesn't even really matter how you said it would have worked before. Now it's just like trying to get to them and saying like, how would you want something like this to work? And it was like Maria said, like my friend is a designer, so the website looks really nice. It doesn't have to look that nice, but it's as simple as like 3 sections of the website and like sign up here. And then your goal is not necessarily to count the number of signups. Your goal is like anybody who signs up, how do you get on the call with them? So you can actually like dig into how they would want something like this to work.
Okay. That is just so cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. How did
My
you?
only other
sorry.
quick piece of feedback back to your question about like the features that you want to explain. It can be easy to be like, it has this feature and this feature. Oh, and it does this and it does this and it does this. So how do you choose the ones that you want to communicate like on a little tiny piece of paper or a landing page? And I would center back on like, who's your type of person and what's like the most burning thing that they need a way to do. And make sure as you're telling the story of how your first version works, it's all the features you mentioned, like are very clearly connected to that one core thing that they need a way to do, which doesn't mean the company you end up building can't do more than that. But what you want to get feedback on is kind of your core insight. And then if you learn, you might learn like, actually, that's not the thing that people care the most about. And then you'll kind of change. But that can be a way to like narrow down the version of it that you're presenting for your first round of feedback.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Thank you. I had one more question for you, Dustin, about the website. How did you go about making that? You said you did it super quickly. How did you do that?
Yeah, so we used, I'll put the chat, squarespace.com.
Oh, okay.
It is like, if you can do PowerPoint, you can do Squarespace. So you don't need to know how to do HTML coding or anything like that. It's like, put a box here, I want to put a photo here, I want to put text here. And you can build a website like in an hour.
And there's even like templates where you don't even have to choose where to put stuff. You just like substitute it in pictures.
I mean, there's some that are literally called like landing page template.
Yep.
So yeah, but I would do something simple like that. There's other platforms too. There's like Wix.com, a little more in-depth one is called Webflow.
Bubble has landing page templates too. But.
Yep. And Bubble, yeah. But if you go to any of those, you can do it in 10 minutes or like, and the other thing you could do is you could also just do it in a Google slide. and just send people to the Google slide.
Yeah, something that can be hard, but it's true, is actually like the uglier or the less polished it looks at this stage, the more honest feedback people will give you. Because if it looks really professional and well designed and like beautiful and ready to go, people think it's real and they don't want to hurt your feelings by like telling you they don't like your thing. But if you like come to them with a piece of paper or like a Google slide or even a landing page that's just pretty basic, they kind of get the idea that this is a work in progress. And they feel like you can frame it so they feel part of helping you like make it better. So we, like in our experience, you'll just get way more honest feedback the rougher it looks.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I've kind of found that to be true. I would be at the dining hall and I'd be like, oh, this is a good opportunity to like interview some people. And at first I was like, I don't know how honest people are going to be about admitting that they use a dating website or anything like that, because there's definitely like a negative stigma.
Yeah.
But pretty much everyone I went up to they were so interested. They were like, oh my gosh, like I've had this, and this experience. And at first in our online survey, it was like maybe close to like half of the people said that they had used a dating website. When I just went up to people in person, it was an overwhelming majority of people that said they had used one.
Yeah. And those are the ones you want to pay attention to. Like the ones who are really like excited about, that's where I would dig in more about what they're looking for. Because that's the people that are most likely to use it, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Don't lose the insight that just like going out and finding ways to talk to people is the best. Like that is the way.
And that stage never ends. Like you will always be doing that.
Awesome. I don't know. I don't think I have any other questions for you guys. You guys were so helpful. Thank you so much for all of your advice, suggestions.
Good luck.
Is there anything else you think that my team and I should work on to really differentiate ourselves in the competition?
You should get on Dustin's podcast.
I mean, if you're inviting me.
No, just I think my only advice is on the kind of pitch side of things, whether it's this pitch or another pitch, or if you're just pitching to customers, like you can get really wrapped up in like this slide needs to have this information, you know what I mean? And like it can feel very rigid. Just remember, like, just like you're talking about with the dining hall, like at the end of the day, all these businesses are human in some way. And so if you can just tell the story of what is not working and say, I have found a different way to make it work. And I can tell you that I think it's a good idea, not because I think it's a good idea, but because I've talked to 20 people and all of them have said this is how they would like it to work. And they gave me their email addresses and they're begging me to give them the solution. I guess like it's as simple and as complicated as that. And the more you can convey that, I think the better off you'll be in any pitch you do.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so
You're very
much,
welcome.
everybody. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, guys. Hey, Dustin and Maria, if we call, there's just about 12 people left. If we call them all back to this main room, can we let them ask a couple questions and then be done? Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being adaptable for
You're very
this
welcome.
too.
We have been on the other end of this as well. You're doing an awesome job so far.
Nicholas, you should chime in if you have answers to these questions too. I think
I'm learning more than most here.
It's really neat to see.
You should send an invoice for that consulting service you just performed. That was miracle working right there. Well done.
She was awesome. She was like, she knew exactly where her instincts were perfect. Just has to keep going with them.
So I didn't hear anything that was going on in the big room because I was just kind of hanging out on my own. Is there like any closing comments?
Do you have any questions?
Not really. I've been working on my one pager, and are there any like common mistakes you see people make?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say putting too much information on the one pager.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think like what you're trying to validate with the one pager is pretty simple. It's like, do people have this problem? Do I understand what matters to them about solving the problem? And then like, do I convey how I think it should work? Like that's like, keep it pretty simple. Because again, like we said at the beginning, like you're not trying to sell it yet. You're just trying to get people hooked into talking to you so you can learn more from them. So even leaving things a little bit loose and vague can actually be good, because they'll start asking questions. Well, is this how it works? And again, that's where you can use the question with the question. Like, do you want it to work that way? Tell me more about how you envision it working, which is the best kind of conversation you can get into.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would say the only other thing with one pagers is it really matters who you put it in the hands of to get feedback from. It can be really tempting to like get your friends and roommates and family to give you feedback on it. But if they don't fit the demographic that you're trying to serve, like what they think doesn't really matter. Like often you'll have people say like, oh, I don't think people would like this part of it. Or like, I don't think people would use that. And it's like, I don't care. Like, unless you're the one who I'm trying to see if it's going to use it or like it or not, like, I don't care about your opinion of other people. So pay attention to like, is the person who's giving me feedback, are they the person that I would want, that I'm trying to design this for? And if not, you're still accepting their feedback as a gift and you're saying thank you. But maybe at the end of the conversation, you're asking them like, hey, do you know anyone who I can talk to who is like this? And try to turn that conversation into another conversation with someone who might fit the profile better of who you're looking to talk to.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
Hey guys, everybody that's been brought back from the breakout rooms, our facilitators have said they would stay on for a little bit more. So if there's any last minute questions that you would like to have addressed, please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away. Don't be shy.
Before the breakout rooms closed, me and Mrs. Hernandez were talking about market research for my product idea. And I don't need to like bring the whole Zoom call into it. I just wanted to say like, I'd really enjoy like finishing that conversation sometime in the near future because there's a lot that I still don't know and still need to know that I want to get straightened out involving figuring out who my market is and how I can like measure in terms of data, like what that looks like.
Certainly, Matt. Yeah, I was just emailing you. So yeah, definitely. The first thing as Maria and Dustin have been emphasizing throughout the session is precisely identify that problem and go through that. I mean, they have that wonderful process that I think would help you get aligned and eliminate some frustration and possibly, right, Maria, and get to the best solution that could address that problem if there is indeed a problem there to be solved. So yeah, certainly let's connect offline and continue the conversation. I'll be glad to.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the group?
Anyone afraid to go talk to people? Anyone like, nah, I'm not going to do that part. It can be hard to do, but once you do it a couple times, it gets fun.
There are a lot of faces on here that are returning, which is just so cool to see. So like Maria and Dustin, these are students and community that just like, they keep coming and they're doing a great job. And it's just so cool to see. You guys have already progressed so much. It's a good job.
I have a question though. Are we gonna have a karaoke session like we did last year at 2:00 in the morning?
Well, Soraya, if you really want to, you start. But yeah, whoever's left on this call, this event we actually did in 23 hours last year. So we did the presentation, we worked in groups through the night, we had a karaoke session, and then students and teams actually pitched around 2 o'clock that afternoon. So I know that people think maybe the week is not a long enough time to gather this information, but you got a lot more time than we had before. So
less pizza.
Less pizza.
Yeah.
So Patty, what should the students do I know you mentioned in between the next event, and what if they have questions? Just what's the roadmap?
Yep. So I will send out all this information in a concise email tomorrow to everybody. We'll have some next steps, how to contact us. Don't worry. We won't just jump off the board and then wait around and see if you guys show back up. We'll be pestering you. We'll help make those connections. So if you didn't get connected tonight, we're going to encourage you to sign up for student connections, because that's going to be, since the marketing went out today, that's going to be populated. And we had over 400 some students last year sign up just saying, hey, we would love to be a part of a team. And so really utilize that resource that we have to make, really robust teams. It will serve you as you go forward with your venture. So if there's no last questions, I just want to thank everybody for coming. It's been a great night. Thank you for being patient as we worked out a little, some of the twerks of Zoom meetings, as we all know and have come to love so much in the last, 6 months. But we look forward to next week's event, and reach out to us if you have any more questions. Night, guys.
Thank you. It was cool to hear
Bye,
everyone's
everybody.
idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.